What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace, episode 379 on SIFTD Games at SIFTD.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next few hours of awesome video game discussion. And as always, alongside me to do that is the one and only Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Oh, not much.
How's your week been?
Pretty busy with some pre-production stuff on a new thing, but
Working on a new project.
Yeah, there's a new short shooting at the end of April.
Oh, crap. Wow. When are you going to be able to share more about that?
Depends when the director's ready, but it won't be done for a while. We got another one that just finished last week, so you'll hear about
Really?
that. When it has to get in some festivals first, but you'll hear about that.
Wow. Any hints at all about what any of these are?
No. No.
Okay.
The new one is it's more of a horror thing.
Oh, okay. Are they being produced or directed by anyone I know?
The horror is being directed by someone you do know, definitely.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll guess it off air.
Yeah.
I think I may have an idea already.
I think you know who
it might be. That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. You had not mentioned anything like that even off camera that was going on.
Well, we were doing it in September. Also, I didn't need to take any time off for it because I had COVID when they shot it. So I didn't do anything on it.
That worked out.
Yeah.
Sure, that's not ideal. You would have preferred to be
I would have rather
involved.
been on set, but it turned out very well.
That's awesome. So it's finished.
It's finished.
It's in the can.
It has been approved, color correct, everything's done.
Oh, wow.
So it's ready to go. Posters made. Just got to get approved by some festivals. So
Damn.
That's in process.
That's great to hear. Congratulations to our friend Matt Kyle. That's some big news he's dropping here on GameFace. That's a lot of work.
And of course, Brian's two are already online for anybody to watch.
Oh, yeah.
If you dig through my Twitter, you'll find the links. I don't post a lot of Twitter stuff. I reply to a bunch of people like an asshole, but I don't actually post individual Twitter things.
Okay.
You'll see I've retweeted Brian's posts about where to find those.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is when this show is archived on YouTube, we'll be sure to put the direct links in the clip description,
right,
so the folks on YouTube can give it a watch. Because, obviously those shorts made it through all these different film festivals, but a lot of people don't attend those. So I know a lot of people would like to check them out.
Oh, no, yeah. The thing about not putting it online until you're done at the film festivals is film festivals often will not take a short that's online
Publicly available.
Because they don't think it's a draw. As though anyone's showing up to watch random it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get going here, I want to give you guys an update on what's been going on with the hack. And the good news is that there really hasn't been hardly any news. We all right now are on the hook for not that many chargebacks. They are slowly trickling in. Each one of those, as I found out now, is $15, so that could add up very fast. But they're trickling in right now. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that they're just not going to come flooding in. But anyway, in this case, no news is good news with Gary. Good news. If I'm not getting any chargebacks or any emails from the credit card processor, generally that's a good thing. So anyway, just want to keep you guys in the loop. It is a slow process. I will say this. All of the ones that I've disputed so far, we have not heard back from the credit card processor about at all. And there are some that just flat out we couldn't even really dispute. So anyway, just wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on there. All that stuff is still going on in the background, but just wanted to give you guys the latest on what's happening there because I know a bunch of you guys cared. And a bunch of you guys went to our Patreon and pledged at our Patreon to try to help us out through this. I appreciate that so much. We also lost a lot of people off of our old subscription system. In fact, we lost my mom off of the old...
Your mom isn't a Patreon subscriber?
She was on our old subscription system, and it's been there ever since. But when this happened, she's one of the people that got booted off the old subscription system. And I will say this. My mom, who is 73 years old, went through the process of going off of our old subscription system, going to Patreon, and connecting her accounts, no problem. And I get questions from people in their 20s and 30s asking me how to do that. My 73-year-old mom was able to handle it no problem. And I'll admit, I was a little surprised, but she is kind of tech savvy. She got into computers in the early 90s. I had a PC before almost anybody else did. Not only that, she bought me music software to make electronic music on this PC we bought in 1992 or whatever.
Yeah, my mom was always more techy. She can figure things out. My dad was intentionally Luddite.
My dad was like that too. He's like, I don't want to hear about it.
I don't want to know about it. But he wanted to type all his stuff up, but then he wouldn't learn the names for anything, so it's hard to help him because he would talk about he would call the cursor. He wouldn't call it the cursor. He called it an archaic racial slur. Which it was so old I didn't even know it was a racial slur until much later in life.
Yeah.
But he would call it that. I'm like, I just figured it was a weird name
right,
for it, And so that's what he was. I'm just like, yeah, you got to move it over. He's like, oh, that's what that. I'm like, yeah, stop it. Like,
my dad never had, before he passed, never had a cell phone. His wife had a cell phone, and he's like, she's got one, that's good enough. I'm like, okay.
But it's like, what? Like, he used computers for 20 years, like from 86 on, and he used them, and I'm like, and periodically he'd still ask me how to save something. I'm like, I know you know that. You're a very smart person. There's no way you haven't pattern recognized to the point that that's how it works. It was like willful.
Yeah, willful ignorance. Some people just don't want to learn some stuff because they want to. I think some people enjoy relying on other people for specific things. Your dad, maybe that was his connection with you. You're the technology, and you being able to help him with tech. Like, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. But anyway.
I think it was more of a dominance thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. But he's acquiescing to you, saying, I don't know this. You step in.
No, he's making me interrupt what I'm doing, whatever I'm doing, to make sure what he's doing takes priority.
Gotcha.
That's what that was.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys had a great week. I'll say this, Matt. I was surprised at the lack of response to last week's show on SIFTD. Because, one of the biggest games of the year, I'm figuring everybody's really excited to play it.
Well, you liked it, so there was nothing to yell about.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, a couple people commented like, wow, I can't believe that Shane liked it. But that's it. Like, no one's really talking.
You liked it, and I didn't play it, so I couldn't be negative about it, so there was nothing to argue about.
It's kind of odd, really. Like, how the
Well, here's the thing, and I've hammered this a bunch of times, even back when the first one came out. Like, there's a limited audience for this.
It kind of feels like
it's it's like 3 million people are going to play this game at launch, and more will pick it up as it gets cheaper, probably. And maybe you'll get a burst of people when the third one comes out, and maybe they bundle everything together into something coherent. It's still kind of shocking to me that you don't carry over anything.
It is weird.
Save-wise.
I'd agree with that, yeah. Although I'm glad, because I didn't make it very far.
I mean, it means I don't have to finish the first one.
Right.
Because otherwise I would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's... there's a group of people, because again, like I said, Final Fantasy VII sold a huge number of copies for 1997.
Yeah.
That's not a huge
it's different
hit anymore.
now, yeah.
And I really don't see these new versions pulling anyone in who wasn't already on board.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, kids probably, like if you're 12 now, I bet Final Fantasy VII Remake is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you enjoy that kind of thing. But however, like, my main memory of the first one and a little bit of the second one's better about it from the demo. I did poke at it a bit this week. I didn't play past where the demo was. There's no point in me. You already know what I think about that game.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird to me how much the first
people
one...
thought they knew what I was going to say about it too, though.
I know what I'm going to think about it. I know.
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the game, so.
But it's, I'll look at it eventually when I just didn't have time this week.
Yeah.
And like,
we have a lot of games in today's
If it was
show.
a game that I really wanted to play, I would have found a way to make time for it.
True. But
it wasn't.
Yeah,
if it was Dragon's Dogma 2, it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah,
so I just think it's, my main memory of the first one is that never really lets you play. Like, you get like 2 battles, and then all of a sudden you got to walk slow for no reason.
Or you got to
watch another
40 minutes
scene,
of cinematics.
and then it's like a coin flip whether it lets you skip the cinematic or not.
Yeah.
And then like I remember once,
a lot of that stuff's in Rebirth.
I was thinking about it because I loaded up looked in my saves, and I'm like, how far did I get in that game? And I couldn't remember exactly how far I got. And then I looked at the save, and it was the train graveyard. And I was like, and I finally remembered exactly why I stopped playing, because I was playing it, and at one point you find the ghost of the kid early on, and like Tifa disappeared, like she was invisible. She was still talking, and everyone was reacting to her.
You know, it's a bug.
But she was turned invisible, and when the fight with the ghost started, the screen went white, and I could still hit things, but I couldn't see anything, and it kept going after I won the fight with not being able to see it, and it stayed white. So I reset the game, and it crashed the game if I tried to load the save.
Wow.
So and to go back to the previous save was like 3 hours, so I just stopped.
I still have problems with my LG CX. If there's a big explosion on screen or like a big white flash on the screen, it shuts off. And it'll start over and reboot, and it takes it's done it since I've owned it.
Oh, to be clear, this was the game, not the TV.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And this is just my TV.
The HUD was still there. It was just all white.
It was a bug.
The game was white. So, and then it's like the save was corrupted, and I'm like, I'm not playing 3 more.
Nope.
I'm not playing through that sewer thing again.
I'm
Fuck
done.
that. The sewer section. That whole middle is terrible.
It's boring.
And
that's where I folded too.
The wall market section is terrible. It's boring as hell. And they call out that it's boring as hell a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then the sewer thing is terrible. And then what a bad game.
I didn't get too far in it. This one's way better though. I will say that much.
I mean, the fact I've seen the open world stuff and like the fact that you turn a Ubisoft tower on to reveal all the things. I'm like, oh yeah, that is a thing I like. Maybe.
That's funny.
I don't know. I'll get to it, but not.
Believe me, Matt, I think in a couple months you're going to have plenty of time to go back and give it
I feel like the schedule will work. It'll be a fun thing to talk about in July.
Actually, you may be right. Yep.
When we have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Let's check in with you guys and see how you guys are up, or how you guys are doing this week. Mike's Q says, Matt, I have no time for Final Fantasy VII as I'm trying to finish the Arkham games, and you suck 15 hours of my life with Balatro, and it won't stop anytime soon.
That's true. I have a couple people yelling at me about telling them about Balatro. Mike Benson, one of our friends from G4, he's up till 4 a.m. every day playing that game now. Benson's a giant Final Fantasy VII fan. He played the remake like twice or 3 times or something. He hasn't even started Rebirth because he's playing Balatro the whole time.
Wow.
Game of the Year candidate, people. Yeah. I'm telling you, made by one guy.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Who
doesn't know how to play poker?
You don't need to know how to play poker. That's the beauty of it.
Which is hilarious that Europe is trying to pull it because this is like, no, that's not. It teaches gambling. It doesn't teach you shit. Imagine someone who only knows poker from Balatro going in a casino and thinking, I got this.
Nope.
This card's glass. Like, who is this guy?
The retro modern gamer. Shane, you might want to unplug your TV and leave it off for a minute and see if that might fix it. It doesn't. I've tried everything. The firmware on the TV's been updated like 80 times since I've owned it. If there's something wrong with the initial run of LG CX TVs where the variable refresh rate, the VRR, causes it to shut down. And they've not managed to fix it with firmware. It's also not every unit has the problem.
Now, I don't have the first wave, but mine still occasionally will black screen out and pop back up when the Xbox does the checkerboarding.
Interesting.
Only on the Xbox. The PS5 and the Switch never do it.
It's worse on my Xbox Series X. Way worse. It happens way more often on Xbox, but it does still happen on my PlayStation 5.
Interesting.
Yeah,
the only problem I've had with the PS5 is the LAN cable is unplugged. Bullshit.
Retro Modern Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. We really, really appreciate it. It makes a big difference for us, so thank you. Mike's Q also says, I watched the show live, so I got all my comments out in the Twitch chat about Final Fantasy VII. Maybe others did too. Tota Mish, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. As always, guys, if you want us to address your comments, make sure you go at SIFTD Games. It makes it much easier for us. David Nordic, thank you for Twitch Prime. Cinetyke, Shane, what's that shirt? Looks intriguing. Oh, okay. I'll show you guys what it is. Let me bring it up on camera here. So this shirt is... I'll move over. So it's a spoof on the album cover for New Order's album Technique. Stussy made a t-shirt around it and only made like 5,000 shirts or whatever, and I think that's how they got away with it without getting sued. But Technique is one of my top 2 or 3 New Order albums. It's amazing from beginning to end. I highly recommend it, by the way. Maybe add it to your Spotify list if you're looking for new music. But that's what it is. It's just a spoof off of New Order's Technique album cover. And it's like 2 of my favorite things coming together in one thing. I love New Order. I love Stussy. Perfect for me. So anyway, that's what it is. Let's check back with you guys in chat. What else we got here? Glottis21, thank you for Twitch Prime. Cinetyke, thank you. El Guapo3385, thank you. Too Quick Capri, thank you. Who else we got here? Justin Horman, thank you. 80 months, man. That is awesome. You are undoubtedly one of our biggest supporters. Thank you so much for everything you do, Justin Horman. Obviously, he just sent Matt a birthday present. He sent me a present for Christmas. Efoja, thank you for Twitch Prime. Dr. Toe Rebels 27, thank you. And I think that's it from today. So far, anyway. As people join, they tend to hook us up with Twitch Prime. Let's see. Toon Medic, are we getting Name That Game back? We still do Name That Game, but we're just doing it with audio instead of visuals. And I actually kind of like it. Now that I'm starting to figure out how to do it, I think it's going to keep getting better. But yeah, soundwizardry.com.
The DJ is awakening.
What do you say?
The DJ is awakening.
It kind of is, actually, yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're doing now. We're doing an audio version of Name That Game instead of using screenshots. Cinetyke says, classic reference on the shirt. I get it now. Okay. You're a fan of New Order? I hope so. Everybody should be.
I like New Order.
Yeah, they're amazing, man. They are really good. I just saw them.
I enjoy Division better, but
Yeah, I flip and flop. It depends on my mood. If I'm in a more serious mood, I like Joy Division. If I'm in a lighter mood, I like New Order. And that's why they're perfect. Like, they're just this perfect, like, they complement each other very, very well.
I do think Crafty is one of the best songs of its decade.
You like Crafty?
I do like Crafty.
For a lot of New Order fans, that's where fans started thinking that they were jumping the shark.
Yeah, I can see that.
They got a little more poppy at that point.
It is. It doesn't feel like New Order to me, but it does feel like a different music I also like.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a great song still. I like Crafty, for sure.
And I always like the video.
Yeah.
It's a fun video.
Yep. J-Force Breaker, Evil Dust is the best music piece from New Order, better than Beach Buggy. What's Beach Buggy? I've never heard of Beach Buggy. Evil Dust is okay. I have dozens of songs I like more than that, though. Cinetyke says Kraftwerk is my favorite. Well, if you like Kraftwerk, then you definitely like New Order. Yeah. They go hand in hand. That's for sure. So anyway, I think we're about ready to get on to our housekeeping for this week's episode. I would say it's a pretty beefy housekeeping for this week. But again, as I said, we have 4 games in today's show. They're not gigantic games, so it's not like we're going to spend 40 minutes on each one or anything, but we do have a wide selection of games to talk about today, and I think there's a little something from almost everybody on the rundown. First, though, we're going to get to housekeeping, and the first thing we're going to discuss is that there is a big Xbox partner preview that is going down tomorrow, hot on the heels of the Nintendo partner preview. Do you feel like this might be a response to Nintendo's third-party thing, or do you think this was just already planned?
I think that's too soon to get that all together.
That's what I figure, too. Yeah.
It's probably always planned, and it really this is what's happening with the third-party stuff, with the going to the other platforms was the impromptu thing. Mm-hmm. Because clearly they always meant to announce that at the Nintendo Partner Direct.
Yeah, because obviously they knew Nintendo was having a Partner Direct because their games were in the Partner Direct.
Yeah, and somewhere in there they decided the optics would be better if they had something to say about it and then that happened, rather than just being quiet and having that happen in Nintendo's thing, and then everyone's like, what?
People would have lost their minds. And I actually kind of would have preferred to see what would have happened if they would have just shadow dropped it in Nintendo's Direct or whatever.
No, nothing good. Bro.
Yeah.
People are crazy.
Yeah. Well, this is also a third-party event. Again, it's tomorrow for Xbox. I think they said it's going to be like 20 to 30 minutes long. It's going to have like over a dozen trailers in it. So, sounds pretty robust, particularly when you think that, Nintendo just did one 5-6 days ago, and obviously Xbox isn't going to want to repeat anything that was in that, so could be pretty good.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously discuss it in next week's GameFace. I just want to give you guys a heads up. And if you use SIFTD, obviously we'll have it curated to your SIFT. You won't miss it. If you go to SIFTD tomorrow, it will be front and center. Everybody better check it out.
Yeah, and that way you can just jump past the things you don't care about.
Right.
That's what I do.
A lot of people do. Yeah.
I haven't watched Nintendo Direct live in a very long time.
Me either. Yeah. I mean, actually, some of the first party ones, I do.
First party one I will, but like that third party one, I came back to that the next day.
I'm going
to wait, not just going to wait till I can skip. I'm going to wait till you got chapter stops.
Yeah, I waited till it was over. Yeah, and then I just started scrubbing through it and being like, okay, I need to curate that trailer and this trailer and that trailer.
Don't need to look at that. I don't care about that.
Much, yeah. So anyway, hopefully Xbox partner thing tomorrow will be something you're a little more interested in, but it's happening, and it'll be up on your SIFs on SIFTD. Next up, we got crazy news from Respawn this week, Matt, because of the EA layoff. So EA's laying off, 5% of its total staff or something like that?
And they're like, we're going to focus on our own IP, because licensed IP is not the way to go. I'm like, Jedi, Fallen Order, like Respawn's been working on those like constantly. You're about to do a Warhammer 40K crossover with now it's Call of Duty actually.
Yeah. Warhammer's crossing over with a lot of stuff though.
Putting out the Battlefront thing again. What was the other? There was another. Oh, every single EA Sports game is a licensed thing. Like like they're.
But they're getting away from licensed content, man.
Right. I'm like, what IP are you talking about?
I don't know.
Like what?
I mean, it appears to be Star Wars, because the big news was that the Mandalorian game that we just talked about from Respawn 2 weeks ago is now canceled. Yeah. We were so excited for that game.
And you're working a Black Panther game. Yeah. Iron Man is in development. Like, what are you doing that isn't licensed?
What isn't licensed? Yeah. I don't know, man.
Like, you're not going to be done with licensed IP for like 4 years at this rate.
It's weird.
Why would you say that now, publicly? It's so strange.
Well, the strangest part was, one, I was bummed to find out that Respawn's Mandalorian game wasn't coming. I was really excited for that once we found out about it.
I was less bummed when I found out that it was not open world.
Oh, I didn't never heard that.
It's just bounty. It was just bounty hunter again.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm less.
Still, it probably would have been pretty good.
I mean, I wish those people didn't lose their jobs, but like that's not the Mandalorian game I would have been interested in.
Yep. So we found out that game was canceled, and then a few days later, we get word that they're working on a new Titanfall game, which. Okay, like we're big fans of Titanfall. Titanfall 2 is amazing, but it's not Titanfall 3. It's going to be some kind of a spin-off or something? I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, Apex Legends is technically in the same universe, so it can be anything.
I mean, that does lend towards the idea that EA's trying to get away from licensed content. They canceled a Star Wars game in favor of their own IP.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know if that's a good idea, to be honest. Like...
I don't know. I mean, Titanfall 2 is great, but it didn't seem to move the needle very much.
Yeah, it didn't
but again,
sell
if
very
that's
well.
what they're talking about, like using their own IP, like, well, that strategy might not last too long.
Well, it seems like dumb to me, honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're still doing the third one of these.
That wasn't canceled.
Jedi 3 is still happening.
Yeah.
Would it be crazy not to?
They would be, yeah.
So, I don't know. Like,
although I can say, Matt, that if EA is
also, we'll see how Outlaw sells.
Right.
Like, if that's a giant hit, like maybe EA changes his mind on the Star Wars stuff. Black Panther feels like a riskier move because Marvel stuff really isn't dependable.
Yeah.
It really seems. I mean, I wouldn't even say Iron Man is a surefire at this point. It's going to really depend on whether the game's any good. Because like people are more likely to pass on a superhero game, I think, just because they're traditionally so bad.
Yeah.
We can complain about Suicide Squad versus the Arkham games all we want, but Suicide Squad is really more in line with how superhero games have generally been through history.
They've simply been abysmal. Yeah.
And going on my retro game kick recently, I'm just like, oh yeah, these all suck. Like especially going back, I'm like, I remember I used to think X-Men Clone Wars on Genesis was real good, and it's not. It is probably the best 16-bit X-Men game, but that is like rating the different punches you've had to the nose. Like it's like that one didn't hurt so much. That was the X-Men Clone Wars of punches to the nose. That's about it.
Well, Matt, remember how long we waited for a decent Batman game?
Oh, yeah.
Remember how terrible the Batman games were for eons?
Yeah, I mean, Arkham Asylum was probably the first good Batman game since probably the NES. Unless you liked I never liked the Genesis one based on the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like...
It was passable, which was good.
It was built up as like a big deal because it was an import-only thing for a long time.
Yeah.
It was like, it looked good in screenshots. Like, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe we don't get to play that. And they came over and like, oh yeah, it's all right. It was a big disappointment when it finally came to the States. But yeah, I mean, I think the Sunsoft NES Batman and that Return to the Joker was good. Like you're talking about 8-bit.
Yeah.
Talking about 8-bit era until Arkham Asylum.
I mean, let's be honest, Matt. Generally, licensed games in general were stigmatized for 2 decades because you have publishers like THQ that were just barfing out yearly releases for like Rugrats and crap like that. And so
Simpsons is the thing I think of. Is like LJN and the Simpsons.
At least they made a decent Simpsons game.
Which one?
Hit and Run. The open world,
I'm talking about like
GTA.
I'm talking about 8-bits. I'm talking about the 80s
going
and
way
90s.
back.
I mean, because remember that show's been on for 30 some years.
Yeah.
So like Bart versus the Space Mutants, Bart's Nightmare, like all there was a period where like you just didn't touch that stuff.
Yep.
Or anything based on a movie.
Yeah. Anything licensed was trash for forever. So
unless it came out independent of the movie, like the Terminator Sega CD game was pretty good, but it came out almost 10 years after Terminator. Or like things like there were movie inspired things that were pretty good. Alien 3 on the Genesis was better than it should have been.
Yeah,
but like it was really the exception.
There are always anomalies.
Alien versus Predator, like that was good, but like that was the only good game on the Jaguar according to some. But it was just like you had a licensed game that wasn't terrible. We used to like center a whole episode of X-Play around that.
Oh, yeah?
It's like, oh my god, this game doesn't suck. I remember Adam got the copy of Arkham Asylum, the review copy of Arkham Asylum, and came back the next day, and because the last Batman game we done was Dark Tomorrow, which is one of the worst things ever made. Like really one of the worst games I've ever played. And I came back, I'm like, how bad is it? He's like, it's great. I'm like, what? He's like, it's fucking great. It's like maybe it might be the best game of the year. And I'm like, what? And I'm like you need to give that to me right now. I don't believe you. And so I'm like, oh no, he's right. It was
revelation.
Like we didn't even suspect.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's how ingrained that like rule. It was a rule.
No,
it was a rule.
Yep, it was. Yep, that we lived by for a long time.
Yeah, really. Like that was why the Ultimate Alliance games were such a big deal to some people then, because they didn't suck.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, it was Marvel, but it's not terrible. Also, why
Marvel versus Capcom? Yeah. I mean, I feel like that franchise got a boost just because people were like, "Damn, it's a good Capcom game." Yeah, well, that's a good like Marvel game.
Well, that's the thing is like, you know, people are like, "Oh, what's the best X-Men game?" Like, well, the best X-Men game is X-Men: Children of the Atom or any of the Capcom versus games. Well, no, not fighting games don't count. I'm like, no,
they do to me.
They count. Count to me.
Yeah. So anyway, you may be happy about this. You may want to see another Titanfall over a Mandalorian. What about you, Matt? Which would you prefer? That's a tough call.
I would rather see another Titanfall over that Mandalorian.
Okay.
Because the Mandalorian game I want is basically an open world, go to a bunch of different planets at will and, you know, chase bounties, and then like a story unfolds along the way. Like,
sounds like they were going to use the Jedi engine for the game.
It sounds much more like it was going to be like that. And that's fine, but like one of the real appeals of the Jedi games is that you're a Jedi. Yeah. Like the things you unlock are like force powers and saber combat stuff, and those fights are interesting. I don't think, to me, like Mandalorian, you can do a lot of traversal, I guess, with the jetpack and rope things and what. I mean, it's there. I see what you're doing, but it's not nearly as interesting as what I'm already doing. So, like, I would need it to be changed up. Like, and maybe you don't want to do an open world Mandalorian when you're doing it right now, because that would be a little too similar to what Outlaws is doing. Yeah. But I would like a Mandalorian bounty hunting game that's like Outlaws. Okay. That's more, when I see Outlaws, that's what I have in my head as the Mandalorian game.
I'm 50-50. I'll take a new Titanfall. I'll take the Mando game. Either one, I'd be happy with.
I just don't care about Mandalorian stuff as much. I mean, I care about the Mandalorian, like the show and the character and the characters in that show. For me, Star Wars is Jedi. I like Jedi stuff, and I like space fighters, like space combat stuff. The underworld, like bounty hunter smuggler stuff is the least interesting part of Star Wars to me, which is one reason I'm actually a little shocked at how interested I am in Outlaws.
Because that's kind of the vibe.
Because it is the vibe, but it also is finally letting me do something I've wanted to do in Star Wars forever, which is just go around the galaxy.
Just go where the hell you want.
Yeah. So
okay.
I will make exceptions if you let me go choose what planet to go to. I mean, I like that the Jedi games let you do that too.
Yeah, they do.
But the Outlaws obviously is a lot more freedom thing.
Yeah, for sure. So there you go. That's the latest on what's happening at Respawn and EA with the Star Wars license. Next up, we don't talk a ton about emulation here on GameFace. I'll just be honest with you. I feel uncomfortable talking about it because I don't want you guys to pirate. Look, you can do whatever the hell you want. We can't control you guys, but I don't like to encourage piracy.
I think emulation is fine of retro stuff. Because in a lot of ways, that's the only reason we have some of those games still.
You're right.
But in terms of like something like this is a modern living system. Like, that's different to me.
Yeah, so there was a Switch emulator called Yuzu. And the crazy part to me, Matt, was how long it operated before Nintendo stepped in and did anything.
Well, because they weren't doing it. They weren't doing what they were doing until they stepped. Because it was the paywall that did it.
Oh, had they just instituted the paywall?
They had put a Patreon thing up for like extra feature or something.
Oh, I thought that had always been.
No, they only went after them when they started trying to make money on it.
Interesting. So here's the thing about emulation.
Because emulation's not illegal.
Right.
It's having the ROMs that's illegal, and it's super hard to prove that someone didn't dump that ROM from an actual cartridge they own or used to own.
Which is
or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to back up your own.
It's just not worth the legal legwork you have to do to prove that. But like this, profiting off of an emulator of a living Nintendo system,
you're asking for
stupid, man. I mean, all the other people. I mean, this was like apparently like one dude on the team who, like, leader or I don't know who he was, but like other people who worked on this emulator have been like, we told him like that was a bad idea, but that was what happened.
Well, they're probably looking at it like, we've done all this work. We haven't made a penny off of it. Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
But that's
the why deal. You can't make a penny off of it. So basically what happened
Anyone would, like, you go try to charge for your fucking Saturn emulator, Sega's going to come after you. Like, that's just how it is.
Well, what Nintendo said was that it was over 1 million downloads of The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. That is what Nintendo claims, is what triggered Nintendo to go after the emulator. So you do the math there, very simple math. That's like $70 million just, and they said that was their conservative estimate of how many times Tears of the Kingdom was pirated, basically, using that emulator. And so Nintendo claims that that's the reason why. I agree with you. I think you're right. It's like, okay, you're going to try to make money now off of this emulator.
And Nolan Bozozone says they apparently settled to avoid discovery because they were collecting user data and selling it.
Oh. Well, so ultimately what happened was, as we just said, this emulator was basically on the hook for at least $70 million in lost revenue. Nintendo settled out of court with them for $2.4 million, which seems like a lot, and it is, but it could have been
way worse.
So much worse.
I'm sure it's more valuable to Nintendo to have this little example out there.
Well, I mean, the thing is like the emulator's not going away.
But it's like 2.4 million and your head on the fucking wall outside the castle Nintendo, outside of Peach's castle, to show you what happens if you try to make money off of emulation of Nintendo hardware.
And my guess is, they never pay that 2.4 million. They're going to be indebted to Nintendo probably for the rest of their lives. They were making what, 20 grand a month on their Patreon? Something like that.
I don't know what the number was.
That's what it looked like. And I thought it had been up for a long time, but you're saying not very long. So they don't have that.
What I read said that it had been a fairly, probably not. Recent legally, like maybe it was like a year or so.
Oh, okay,
gotcha. It takes a while for these things to grind.
Well, even at a year, you only got what, 200, 300K there.
Well, because the damages are the theoretical lost sales of Zelda.
So my point is that there's no way they're ever going to be able to pay this.
No.
Unless they're independently wealthy, and then Nintendo can just go in and garnish their bank
case,
accounts.
why are you charging
why are you wasting your life doing this stuff?
That?
Yeah. So, and look, I do understand there's both sides of the argument. A lot of people will say, like you said, well, an emulator isn't illegal, but come on, guys. Like, an emulator only works with things generally that are illegal. You can say, I backed up my ROMs and I ripped my GameCube discs and like whatever, but come on.
But it's also like the money's made on those things.
Yeah,
that's why I don't care about any of that, because like
with really old games,
I don't care. I mean, if someone wants to play, like, I don't know, name something on the GameCube that doesn't
Wave Race Blue Storm.
Yeah, let's play Wave Race Blue Storm. Can you buy that on a current system? No,
you can't.
No, they haven't even mentioned Wave Race. Yeah, it doesn't even exist. And if you go buy a copy of it, you're not giving any money to Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like, you're probably paying an inflated bullshit secondary market price to some basically like a retro scalper.
Yeah, probably.
So I don't really care if you decide to use a ROM.
Yeah, the old stuff doesn't bother me that much.
If the money's made, it's pretty much
they're not
fair
making
game.
another penny off Wave Race Blue Storm.
I mean, they could if they fucking put it on the thing. I mean,
if they put it on Nintendo Switch.
Give me a Wave Race collection, I'll buy that. I mean, I pay money for
I would
retro
be very happy to see
time.
a new Wave Race.
I will. I have 5 copies of this 6, if you count the Sega CD version. I have 6 copies of Revenge of Shinobi from the Genesis.
Yeah.
I would buy a Shinobi collection.
Yeah.
Still, I would still. I have every Shinobi game multiple times in cartridge and CD form. I would still pay for a modern collection of those games, but Sega won't give it to me.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. Is sort of my feeling on the retro thing. Especially if you add little, like the Sega Classics thing that they say, that thing where we go in the bedroom and you pick the cartridges out and stuff. I'll buy those every fucking time. Those are great. I love that. I love to support it. I love to reward the companies for remembering that they have this huge back catalog. EA. Looking at you. You want to make some IP money? Put a fucking Wing Commander collection out. How about that?
I mean, EA sits on more IP than anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I know you can buy it on GOG and all, but like, why don't you just revamp those things or something? Like, do something with it.
Makes sense.
A modern Starflight would kill. Like, look what happened with Starfield.
No, you're right.
Like, if you made a Starflight that kind of did all that, but like with a game in it, I wasn't entertained. I was entertained by Starfield, but I totally understand why people weren't.
Yeah.
If you did that with like a much more robust economic simulator in it, like Starfield used to have at the time, like you could, or Starflight, like you could have a really interesting thing on your hands there.
Yeah.
But they just won't take that risk.
Yep. So there's a lot that goes.
But this, like an emulator of an existing system that you can go buy at Best Buy right now, that's ridiculous. I mean, as a tech experiment, sure, like that's okay, like do that. But like you're riding the ragged edge of disaster if you're playing with, especially with Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo's not going to let.
Yeah, I mean, I have very little sympathy for the people who are using this emulator. Because it's just for Switch. It's for games that are still viable.
And I understand
selling.
some people. Like I know some people that just like they played Tears of the Kingdom on their PC because they went and they bought it and they dumped the cartridge to their PC and they play it on PC and it runs at 60 frames a second.
The emulator runs it way better.
It runs way better. And like
sad.
Of all the things, I understand the frustration with how underpowered the Switch is in that regard.
But let's be honest, Matt. Of those million people, I mean,
well, what 2%, 1%
Right.
are actually doing that? The others
Yeah.
are just downloading the game.
yeah, to not pay for it.
Yeah, Nintendo's right. There were lost sales there.
Yeah, and again, we do understand both sides of this. We get it. There is an argument to be made for, say, as Matt said, like if without these emulators, a lot of games would be lost forever
Oh, sure.
because people actually care about the ROMs. So
But that doesn't really happen anymore.
Not anymore.
I mean, only for like the digital only stuff.
Yeah.
Like digital only stuff are at risk of that. But like, we're not going to lose Tears of the Kingdom.
No,
you know,
it's not going to just disappear.
You don't
off
need
the
to
face
worry
of the
about
earth.
preservation for the Zelda series.
Nope.
We're fine. We're fine.
Yep. So anyway, that's the latest on the Switch emulator. There's like other ones though. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah, there's
this is
multiple
gone,
ones.
but
But
there's
this-
like 3 other Switch emulators.
But this is I mean, Dolphin is in there too. But like, this is the one that was trying to charge people. That's all it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yep. Next up in housekeeping, we learned. I don't know if I learned that this week. I think I figured it out over the last holiday season. But a Norwegian research firm did a study on young players, young gamers, and their social outlets and how they interact with other kids their age.
Young male.
Yeah, basically. And what they found out.
That's a marketing in-joke from the Tech TV era.
Yeah.
Because every time we were told to do anything targeting anything, marketing would just tell us, like, young males. You want to be plugged into the young male psyche. And, like, so when we want to be edgy and you want it to be rock, and you want to rock. And so every time we'd put in, like, the stupid heavy metal butt rock guitar stuff, like, you and Jason Chung and me would just be like, young males!
Hitting that target demo. So anyway, this Norwegian research firm has discovered that basically kids are now being bullied for their virtual existence. So if you're someone who plays Fortnite and you go to class or go to school every day and you go and see your friends and then you go home at night and you play Fortnite with them and your Fortnite character doesn't have like all the latest cosmetics and all the hot accessories, they consider you poor and will bully you for being poor.
Well, they used to do it with real clothes.
Right.
Now they do it with virtual
Matt,
clothes.
how hard is it for kids now? It was hard enough back then. Like, I remember, like, kids were just ruthless.
Oh,
like,
if you didn't have the right British Knights or
yeah, the
whatever
right
the hell was
shoes
hot.
or the right sweater or
Yeah.
whatever the hot thing was. Like, you were looked down on. You're poor or whatever. People would bully you. They'd make fun of you. Now, if you're a kid...
I didn't have that problem because I didn't understand any of that.
Oh.
So, like, I didn't know anything about clothes trends or anything. And so people would be like, oh, you don't have that. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't know what that is? You're poor. I'm like, no, I
No.
just don't care. I don't know what that is.
Fashion
And I
ain't
wasn't
my
any
thing.
fun to bully. That was the problem. Is I wasn't fun to bully
Because you didn't get mad about it.
I was just like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't
That's
get
a
it.
great way to diffuse
And I
it.
wasn't like intentionally trying to like, I'm
Right.
gonna screw these
Just
bullies.
being
I
honest.
was like, I don't understand.
I really don't
Am
know.
I supposed to be upset by that? I don't get it.
Well,
Let me put it this way: if I was a kid now, they'd have been testing me for a lot more than just my IQ.
Yep. Well, so here's the thing. Imagine being a kid now, Matt, where you not only have to worry about your physical presence at school, but now you have to worry about your digital presence.
As I understand it, you have to worry much more about your digital presence, like
Which is
physical,
insane.
like in real world clothing style is not nearly as strict as it used to be, which is
Yeah.
one reason there's no look
Right.
for the decades. Like
Yeah.
well, everything from like 2004 kind of like could be now because
Yeah.
like that whole style thing is
gone.
style has both flattened and become like whatever you want to do it.
Yeah.
And so, but in Fortnite, apparently the rules are stricter.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is also a natural evolution. I mean, 10 years ago, like there was studies that were like kids who don't play video games were getting bullied for not playing video because they were kind of culturally illiterate to the other kids.
That was not even that long ago.
Yeah.
That's
And
still kind of happening, actually.
it still happens a bit. I mean,
Yeah.
this is part of it. I think this is an
It is
evolution
part
of
of it,
that.
yeah.
It's just, there is an amusement to that where it's like, in our day, you got bullied for playing. Well, I didn't, but you could get bullied for playing video games. Now you get bullied for not playing video
them.
games.
It's bizarre. I kind of picked up on this over the holiday season because if you give your kids or your nieces and nephews, like I do, like V-Bucks cards,
Right.
you can spend $200 on something for them, but if you give them a $20 V-Bucks card, the V-Bucks card is what makes them dance across the living room.
Because it's social capital.
Yes. And I figured it out this last holiday season. I was like, there's other stuff going on here. It's not about like just being able to buy that gun that you like. And it's like that for all my nieces and nephews.
And let's not forget that like Epic knows this.
Yep.
Fortnite is constantly capitalizing on this, keeping up with the Joneses so I don't get bullied thing.
Yep.
I mean, they're exploiting that.
It's a little creepy.
You want to go after these companies for gambling loot boxes? Go after them for this too.
No, you're right.
Because this is the same. This is a psychological trick that they know they're doing, absolutely know they're doing, and it's way more insidious than like a pack of baseball cards on a computer.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, I do find it kind of funny that Epic tries to play the role of this ethics cop in the games industry. They're like, when they sue Apple, they message it like, we're doing it for everybody. And then
ethical is when Epic makes money from it.
Right. That's exactly right. So anyway, I'm sure you guys all know about this.
Late-stage capitalism.
It is, pretty much.
But what if I told you this was mid-stage capitalism?
Yeah, we haven't even really gotten to the really bad part yet. Yeah, you're right. But I'm sure all you guys who have kids, or even if you have nieces and nephews, you've been going through this too. Like, that's the first thing they ask for Christmas.
That's the thing. It's like, and if you aren't internal, especially if you weren't a gamer growing up, I think if you haven't internalized how important this is to the new generations of kids, if you don't understand that this is like, to them, it's like not getting the new Supreme gear or the new Air Jordan.
or wearing Nikes versus like generic
Nikes versus
shoes.
Generic or the pump.
Back when we were at that stage,
or whatever, there was a Bugle
Air
Boys
Jordans
trend.
were a
Air
thing.
Jordans were
like if you didn't have Air Jordans, people made fun of you. So
or starter jackets.
That's freaking great.
The kids with the non-official starter jackets got fucking hammered.
Yeah.
I didn't even care about any of that because I wasn't in sports or anything. But I remember one kid showed up in middle school. One kid showed up and he had it was a Raiders puffy jacket, but it wasn't an official starter jacket. And he got they basically ripped it off him.
Yeah.
And like threw it away. Like it was
bullying's nothing new.
No.
But it has gotten worse for sure. Now you're getting attacked for how you look in real life.
Bullying
and
has always been
games.
Stupid, but the idea that it's now happening around something that literally doesn't exist is amazing.
It really is.
It's
it
also just goes to show it's always about social pecking order. It's not about the actual things. It has nothing to do with anything real. It has to do with the perceived place in the society.
I think a big part of that you're seeing with like a lot of the Palestine protesters right now. I don't think they really understand what's happening there. They're just like, oh, I found something that like a bunch of other young people are pissed off about. I'm going to just pile on.
No.
And like...
But it's also like, that kind of cause thing. And I'm not saying I disagree with that cause, but the younger kids have this thing where like, it's almost like how we treat normal, movies and TV shows. It's like don't think about the thing, just consume thing and move on to next thing.
Yeah.
And like that's happening to like real world events and news and causes with them too. It's like they don't know any other way to engage with it.
That's how they've always engaged.
Because that's how YouTube and social media and all these things have taught them to.
Yep.
And that's our failing.
What's next on my playlist?
Yeah, absolutely.
In life. Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
And let's see how that works out for everybody.
Not good.
Probably not.
No. So anyway, very interesting psychological study from the Norwegian researchers. Next up, so as we all know, Microsoft just bought a ton of studios in its big deal with Activision Blizzard.
Again.
And I never really thought about, like, what if, like, some of those studios didn't want to become a part of Microsoft? What recourse would they have? Could they go to Microsoft and be like, hey, we don't really want to do this, and then Microsoft would just dissolve the studio? Or could they do that? And Microsoft would be like, well, okay, you can do whatever you want. And as it turns out, the latter is what's happening. Development studio Toys for Bob, which has been under the Activision banner as long as I can remember, is basically leaving the Microsoft umbrella to make its own game.
Well, I mean, they were their own thing before Activision. So
Right.
These are the people that made Star Control. They've been around for 30 years.
A long time.
This is actually really good news.
They've been a support studio at Activision for a long time. They would pitch in on a bunch of stuff. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, they pitched in on Guitar Hero.
They really had their kind of moment in the sun when they came up with Skylanders.
Yep.
And then they moved on to the Crash remakes.
Yep. So Crash Team Rumble, you're seeing right now, this will be the last Toys for Bob game under the Activision slash Microsoft banner.
And I'm kind of okay with that.
I'm totally okay with it. Because they made this game because they were under the Microsoft Activision Blizzard banner. This game is less than a year old. It's a game as a service, and it's shutting down in 8 months. And this was not Toys for Bob's ideal project it wanted to work on. It's like, hey, how can we stay employed underneath this huge corporate umbrella here? How can we turn an IP that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a game as a service game into a game as a service?
Yeah, and I have heard that they're I don't know if they are or if they just are proving it, but the Urquan Masters, which is a Star Control 2 sort of remake, remaster fan thing, but maybe not a fan thing, but sort of endorsed by the people who made it in the first place. I don't know. But that is apparently coming to consoles with some enhancements at some point.
Wow.
And if you haven't played Star Control 2, that's what that is. It's a Star Control 2 thing. You are in for a treat.
Yeah.
Because these guys made one of the great space games of all time with Star... I mean, Star Control was on Genesis. You may remember that. But Star Control 2 has a campaign and like kind of more of a 4X thing to it.
Yeah.
That is just kind of still unparalleled in the way they did. Because it's not just because the battles are arcade game. The battles are space war.
Yeah.
They're like asteroids. It's great.
The crazy thing about Toys for Bob is that you have no way of knowing what they're actually going to make.
No,
because they've made so many different things. Like their original IP could be literally anything.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of funny. I wouldn't be surprised, and they've kind of hinted at this, that if they make this game and it's good enough, that it might be still an Xbox exclusive that Microsoft signs.
Yeah, they're keeping a good relationship with Microsoft.
It's kind of crazy,
actually.
actually.
It's like the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
For them. Like, not only do you get to be yourself again and on your own and make your own decisions, but you might have a guaranteed publisher in the end.
Yeah, I was really impressed with this from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Amidst all the insanity of the last 2 years, it's good to see that they've come out the other side with their scruples intact, and that they're still willing to work with some of the studios under their umbrella if they want to try something different. So,
and then there's other. I mean, there's what is it? Gearbox looks like it might pull away from Embracer.
It looks like it's going to be sold back to someone else, yeah, or maybe they even purchase themselves. I don't know.
Randy seemed to indicate in this company meeting that he said we're saying there were three options. There was either they sell out. They either collapse and get liquidated under Embracer, they sell out to another party, or they raise capital and buy themselves back from Embracer. And something he said in some all-company meeting implies the second one is that they found someone to buy them out from Embracer.
1.2 or 1.4 billion?
I don't know what the price
that they paid for. I think for a Gearbox,
something like that,
which seems insane.
I imagine they're going to take less than that.
Yeah, I bet that they do, just to get out of the Embracer madness.
But I mean, I'm sure somebody wants to own the company that is the Borderlands people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they own that IP anymore.
I think 2K owns it. Yeah.
So maybe 2K buys them back.
Maybe that's possible. But anyway,
if that movie hits, it would be. There are worse things than having the original people who made the game around to make another one for you to capitalize.
It's true. Yep.
If the movie hits.
Yeah, and I have serious doubts.
I have serious doubts, but that cast
you
is
never
pretty
know.
Good. Like that cast might do it for the mainstream.
Yeah, it might.
You never know.
I mean, I guess I'm surprised more often by films than games that do well.
And it's coming out in the same year as a Mad Max movie, as Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
If Furiosa is great, and there's no reason to think it won't be, because George Miller wouldn't make another one of those if he didn't have a good idea. There could be a hunger for sort of the post-apocalyptic
thing. Right on those coattails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that could, Borderlands... The Borderlands movie might be coming out at exactly the right time. It might be the anti-Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, which came out at the worst.
Came out of the worst, which is horrible because that movie's great.
I heard it's really good.
Dungeons and Dragons movie's great. It's exactly what a Dungeons and Dragons movie should be.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's a lot of fun, and I hope they make.
And how appropriate that we got what a Dungeons and Dragons video game should be around the same time frame.
That's true.
It's pretty awesome.
And I'll bet you next if they make another one, you'll see those characters in. They should do a DLC where those characters show up.
Yeah.
Just to have fun.
Yeah, why not? Next story in today's housekeeping is, I don't know, maybe bad news depending on your perspective, but Neil Druckmann, who's basically the head of Naughty Dog at this point, basically came out and said he doesn't know how many more big games he has left in him. Matt,
This is funny because he's only directed one game.
I know. I mean, what is your takeaway from this? I think the takeaway is, he just doesn't want to make games anymore.
No, who would?
After you've made a TV show and how much easier it is.
It's just done now.
Yeah.
You don't have to patch the episode. It's over.
Yeah.
You that's the thing about film and TV is you work really hard at making this thing, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And you can go do something else.
Yeah.
And sometimes movies obviously take a couple of years, but TV's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so I can absolutely see. I mean, I've always believed that he wanted to be more of a filmmaker, TV person.
He's like the American Kojima in a lot of ways. Sure. I feel like.
Sure. Except he's going to actually get to do it.
Right. And he's actually pretty good at it.
He's actually pretty good at it. Yeah, he is.
That's the big difference, really.
Nobody watches The Last of Us, and it's what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Or then everybody, I don't know if you saw the thing where it turns out that the porter thing in Death Stranding is based on an actual job in Japan.
Yeah.
Where guys load up their whole thing, go up mountains and stuff, and people are like, oh, it's a critical failing that no one knew that. I'm like, how are you supposed to know something? You don't know what you don't know.
There's also a popular I wouldn't call it a streetwear brand, but like clothing brand called Porter. And they make like the most amazing like backpacks and like little side bags and stuff. And they're all over Tokyo if you go there. So yeah, Porter is like a thing in Japan, whereas here people are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Cultural differences.
And again, it doesn't mean you got to make the whole game out of it.
Right.
I'm just saying.
So how do you feel about this? Do you feel like we're losing like an auteur here in game making?
Not really.
No?
I think he does good stories. Obviously, I like The Last of Us 1 and 2, but that's all we know about him. I mean, Uncharted 4's story sucks.
Yeah.
I hate Sam Drake, as everyone knows. Like, I can't really think of another...
But he took that over also in like the middle of the project, like.
Yeah, but he'd been involved in Uncharted since 2.
Right.
Like, it's not like he didn't know the characters.
Well, he's like Uncharted 2 from 2009. That's when I started like losing my like verve. It's like, bro, you hadn't done anything before then. He's like, it's been a scramble since 2009. I'm like, welcome to like a life. Like, it's a scramble. My life is a scramble every freaking day.
Wait till you start directing more than one episode a season.
Right. Exactly.
Like, hello. Like,
it's work then. It becomes work. Right now, he's just like, I get to do all the fun stuff. I get to show up later.
Yeah, the Chernobyl guy does all the work for you, and you just step in and direct things.
Yeah,
like, that's
and
not how that normally works, and you got to have your own career on it.
Right, yeah.
Because right now, you're like the guest director.
Yeah. You know? Like, if people who have worked in production like us, like, you understand, it's a job, man. It's a grind.
And they're going to expect, people who fund a show related to what he wants to do are going to expect him to be a showrunner.
Yep.
And
not just a show up runner.
Right.
Where he just shows up once every 3 months and is like, hey.
That's going to be less grindy maybe than a game direct, especially the kind of games he makes. Obviously, it takes even longer than normal to make these giant projects.
Yeah.
But, I can understand why, after going through kind of The Last of Us's and then seeing kind of a glimpse of how TV production works, like, they got that. They're going to get season 2 out and done in about a year and a half. Whereas, how long does it take to make Last of Us 3? 4 years? 5 years?
For them, like 7 years.
We don't know. Actual full-time grinding development, like probably 4 or 5 years. You see results of your work much quicker, and the person you are when you're done is much closer to the person you were when you started. And so, like, I would imagine there's times when, like, you make one of these big game projects, and by the end of it, you're sort of like, oh, I would have done that differently.
Yeah, because you've changed
If I was me half a decade later, you're sort of having this weird dialogue with the person you were 5 years ago.
I look at work that I did for SIFTD when SIFTD launched, and I look at myself now, I'm like, I would never do that now. Like, everybody's that way.
Yeah.
Like, you change and evolve.
So I can understand that frustration, but I do think it's funny that he directs one game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I'm done.
Oh,
that's enough.
I mean, that shows you.
It's Miller time.
I think it does kind of show you, though, that game development is
very
rough.
difficult.
Yeah.
And, because he did position himself as sort of the alpha dog auteur, everything is on him, and maybe he didn't.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I know that. Everything's on me. It's SIFTD. It's a lot of pressure to wake up with every day. And it's like, if you don't do it or make it happen, it doesn't happen. So, and that's not really his case. There's so many talented people at Naughty Dog.
Yeah. I think they will get along fine with it. Someone else can step in.
But you got to be there, because if you're not there, the morale of the team suffers, and then the project goes off the rails. So, probably he's like, I'm pinned to the office when I'm making a game. I make films and TV. I can kind of show up and then go home and kick the feet up and think about things for a while. Like, production is production, man. You're producing stuff, and it's a grind. It's a job. So I do feel like the industry will lose a little something.
Once you shoot something to the camera, you know what you got.
Yeah.
And you're done with it.
And you got it.
Whereas,
that's
like,
it. It's in the can.
How many weeks do you spend, like, why doesn't this work in the game? Like, why doesn't this...
Or why does this animation look goofy?
Why does he clip through this? It's like, it's I imagine it's much more frustrating.
Yeah. I
and
totally
it's like,
it.
he can't even do anything about that.
Yeah.
It's like, the team's got to figure it out.
I am worried about him leaving the industry, though, because, let's be honest, Matt, there aren't other franchises like The Last of Us.
Well, I think the third one is the last one, whether we like it. Even if he wasn't going to
I agree with you.
I think he's done.
But it's not even just that it's The Last of Us. It's that he could go on to keep making games of that type.
Here's the thing, though. I don't care, because the games aren't that great.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good, but, like, they're not anything super inventive. Like, no, it's not like you needed Neil Druckmann to come up with the gameplay in Last of Us 2.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just an evolution of the first one, which was really just grafting Resident Evil 4 onto an Uncharted level story presentation. His like Neil Druckmann's contribution to those games, contribution to the medium, really is the level of narrative presentation.
Yeah,
he's not making games,
and it's a subject matter too.
Yeah, sure. So that's all that. But in terms of, like, the gameplay stuff, Do I believe that nothing that plays as well or in the way that Last of Us 2 would have to have been? Did we need him for that to happen? No. Absolutely not.
I think the tone of the game.
I think in that regard, Kojima is above him.
Probably.
I think a lot of the stuff, the gameplay ideas in Kojima's games are direct results of how weird that guy is.
No, you're right.
Whereas, like, I think the gameplay in the Last of Us games, much as I mean, Last of Us 2 is great, but like it's more derivative. Pedestrian. It's more of a logical step forward rather than a lateral move.
Yeah, I'm talking more about the subject matter, just an adult game.
Somewhat, I think.
Like, I don't feel like there's other developers that make that stuff. Like, Rockstar feels like a studio that could do it. They get the development time and the budget to make games like that, but it's just not interested. It wants to make satirical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what 6 looks like. I do think Red Dead Redemption 2 was closer to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it still had weird, funny shit in it, but like, it did feel like it was trying to tell a story about these people,
right.
And for the most part, I would say, at least in terms of Arthur, it achieved that.
Yeah.
Like Arthur feels like a real person,
no, you're right.
to the degree that anybody in Last of Us does.
I would
for
argue.
Sure. Maybe not the people around him all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I would argue that Neil opened that door, and it's up to other development teams to step through.
I keep waiting. And it just doesn't seem to happen.
I mean, there's people try. I think like Days Gone tried.
Banishers is kind of a little bit.
Banishers is in there.
Trying.
Not is trying.
Yeah.
I think Spiders is trying.
Yeah.
Trying is the operative. I think Baldur's Gate gets there to some
But
degree.
it all matters. Like the resources that you have, the budgets, the talent that's working alongside you.
What kind of game it is.
Right.
But I definitely see, like, Banishers, like you said, I definitely see them trying to, the relationship between Red and Altea is they're trying to portray an adult relationship between actual people.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes across.
It does.
It works.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first game that jumped to my mind when I started
Yeah.
thinking of games that are at least approaching what he's doing. So I do think there'll be a little bit of a void. I hear you. Other studios are starting to try to fill that void a little bit. They're not there yet, though.
And the other thing I'll say is I'll wait and see. Maybe I'll revise my opinion on that if and when we see this new IP they're working, his fantasy thing they're working on.
And if you see if he's coming through
and
in
does
some
that come
other
through on that,
setting.
or is it just like he really, Last of Us is just the thing he resonates with, and that's because you know what, he didn't help Uncharted 4.
No,
at
you're
all.
right. You're right.
At all.
I agree with you. Yep. Keeping in the first-party PlayStation camp for the next topic. This one I think will make everybody happy. Yesterday it came out that, and I think people kind of assumed this was going to happen, but it came out yesterday that PlayStation is very close to announcing Ghost of Tsushima for PC. Again, I think this is something we all just assumed was going to happen.
Yeah, I thought it would happen sooner than
Yeah, because it's been, 3 or 4 years?
3 years, I think.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously anybody who bought this is totally okay with it going to PC at this point. Like
almost 4 years, because of PS4.
I think it is 4 years.
Before the PS5 came out, right?
Yep, or close to 4 years at least.
This summer. It was summer be 4 years.
Yeah. So we're only a few months away from that. And so
I've been wanting to replay this too.
Well, this is your perfect excuse.
So if the PC version comes along, I will do. I actually did, because I got it transferred to the USB drive, so I don't have to download it again.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do I move it over? I got to delete some stuff. I want to move it over. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about it.
Well, oddly enough, this news comes from Nick Baker, who works at Xbox Era. Somehow he came across this information, and he has leaked things in the past. He's been very reliable. So generally, most press outlets have run this story thinking that it's probably legitimate, and it just makes too much sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see this thing run
on your rig,
on full bore on a PC. Yeah,
hot dog. It's still gorgeous.
This game still has. This game may be the best use of color in a video game.
It might be. Yeah.
I stopped and took screenshots in this game more than I've stopped and taken screenshots of every other game I've ever played in my entire life.
Here's something funny. I just looked through my screenshots on my PlayStation 5 because I saw the media folder had become humongous.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you're like, what the fuck?
So I started going through it, and sure enough, Matt, I had like 35 screenshots from Ghost of Tsushima.
Come over every hill, and there's a fucking beautiful scene. Like, it's like a painting. Like, it's incredible.
It really is amazing. Yeah.
Like, there's, I would say, like, Last of Us 2 probably looks like technologically better, at least in the character model. But I don't think I've ever seen a game, especially not an open world game, that uses color and makes the environments pop the way this one does. It's just, and Sucker Punch has always been great at that. But this is the pinnacle of their color achievement.
We should see the sequel for this for the first time this year.
Yeah,
at some point.
Anytime.
Yep, we're due anytime.
Whatever Sucker Punch makes, really.
Yeah,
like, they've never made.
They've never let me down.
No,
yeah, never ever. And I can't say it about too many studios.
Like the closest would probably be infamous Second Son.
Yeah.
And that still was just
still a quality game.
It was good.
Yeah, it wasn't my vibe though.
It was a little weird that it was like, oh, it's just Troy Baker as an American Indian. I don't know how to feel about that, but I do like blowing things up with neon.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to do now. Yeah.
I played it.
It was a weird game.
I fought through it.
I didn't finish that one.
I didn't either.
But Sucker Punch.
I made it pretty far though.
Sucker Punch's track record is second to pretty much none.
Not a lot. Yep. And again, that comes from Nick Baker at Xbox Era. He also claims that we will learn about this very soon. He thought maybe today it would be announced, and it hasn't been. So.
No. He
day
said
now.
in the next week or two. So.
Yeah, it looks like any day now we'll get that news, and that's great news for everybody. If you're a PC player, get ready, man.
I'm just curious when.
Yeah, when it'll release, you mean?
Yeah.
My guess, maybe they wait until they announce Ghost of Tsushima 2.
Maybe.
In some kind of a...
But also, sometimes they just kind of do it.
They do.
It's like, I mean, it might be April or something.
But imagine if they announce Ghost of Tsushima 2, and then at the end, and they're like, and next week or tomorrow or right now, the first game is available for PC.
I would imagine it's more like we're announcing this for PC, and at the end be like, by the way, Ghost of Tsushima 2, fall 2024. Like,
that could be.
Because they have more footage to show of this,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yep, for sure. So anyway, it looks like good news for PC players. Another incredible PlayStation first-party game is headed.
Don't miss this one.
Yeah, this is definitely pick it up, man. Yep, you will not regret it for sure. And then, our final piece of housekeeping for episode 379 is a game that or a franchise that we never cover here on GameFace. And typically because, one, we're not huge wrestling fans, and two, the franchise has been in the toilet for the better part of the last half decade, and that is WWE 2K. WWE 2K24, I believe, comes out today, and the reviews for it so far have been, like, incredible. So, you guys may not remember, but last year
was a mess.
Well, 2K handed it over to Visual Concepts for the first time last year, and it was a bit of a mess. But if you really dug in, the fans generally were like, okay, the gameplay is better, but it didn't have enough modes and all the stuff that wrestling fans wanted. Well, this year, they've polished up some of the gameplay and made it better, but now all the modes are in there. Not only are they in there, they're like really good.
Or is this last year?
I think this is 2K23, actually. Because here's the other thing about this franchise. Almost any time we run footage of this, we get a copyright strike. Almost every single time. Because they'll splice in like 3 seconds of a real WWE match, and it picks up on it, and you get a copyright strike for the whole episode. So I only run straight gameplay of this franchise here on GameFace for good reason. Matt, do you think you might be interested in giving it another go?
No.
No?
No, I don't. I was into wrestling in like the late '90s. Like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Well,
like,
this game in particular, a big part of it is going back to WrestleMania. So
I
there's
don't
Hulk
really
in
care.
there. Really?
Like it was a time, and not a, it's like I wouldn't probably pick up a I don't know, I'm trying to think of something I liked in the '90s that I wouldn't bother with today, that I don't continue to bother with. It was of the time, and it's over, and it'd be like picking up like a Naruto game now or something. It's like I don't know anything about what that is now.
Yeah.
It's just moved on, or it's not important to me, and even if it's better, it's not going to be good.
I'm a little surprised though, because you love fighting games, and these really are fighting games, but they're bad fighting games.
These are like fighting games in the way that, like, I don't know.
They're their own beast, for sure.
There's too much randomness in it. There's no, it's like, oh, there's a reversal. Like, you never know why you win half the time.
It's not skill-based enough.
No.
Yeah. There's a lot of variables that come into play. But if you're a wrestling fan, and I know we do have a lot of them on SIFTD, and I'm sure a lot of our YouTube audience is into wrestling. That's the thing that
these franchises for years and years have not understood. It's like, no one really cares if it's a really good fighting simulation. People want the characters. People are invested in the characters and the storylines and the trappings.
Well, this has 2 different storylines for its main single-player mode. And then it has, I said, like, it's called, like, something of the Ancients or something like that, where they go back through all the history of Resident Evil, of WrestleMania. And I feel like they've done it before. Like, it feels like we've already had, like, Hulk Hogan versus, like, Andre the Giant.
Yeah, well, they go back to that all the time.
Yeah.
If they can get the license for the likeness rights.
And again, it's in this one. So it feels like they finally got the 2 things together. The other thing, too, is
you can't do every WrestleMania, because then you're going to give away that half of them sucked.
Right. Well, the other thing, too, is visual concepts. You guys may not be familiar with visual concepts. Matt and I know them very well. And once upon a time, they were legendary developers. They were the ones that created all the 2K sports games for Dreamcast. And they were a Sega in-house development studio.
The last real next-gen pop, to me, was NFL 2K on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, how sad is that?
Like, that's the last time I looked at a launch game for a new system. I was like, oh, my God.
Oh, me too. As a football fan, I was like blown away.
And I'd owned the Dreamcast for like 9 months at that point. I was already playing Sonic Adventure and this thing. And like that, I saw that at like on the demo at the GameStop, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'd never seen anything that looked like that."
Well, I've told this story before on GameFace, but like
60 frames per second. It was
I got home from school, and one of my buddies came over, and we were sitting on the couch playing NFL 2K1, and my girlfriend walks in, my wife now, and it was like a Tuesday, and she's like, "Why is there a football game on Tuesday?" And that was like, damn. Mm-hmm. And now it's funny. Like, I look at footage of that game, and the helmets are like, like a stop sign.
But on a CRT, it didn't look like that.
It didn't look like that. Yeah, she thought it was like real football. Yeah. So, anyway, to Matt and I, visual concepts have a special
My dad
place.
did that on one of the World Series, one of the baseball games on Dreamcast. He walked in the room and he was like, "What game? Why are you watching baseball?" I look at him and he sees I'm holding the controller and he's like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yep.
But he would get into that because I'd play it and he usually because he would sit and use the computer next to the TV. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to turn the volume down, especially when I was playing something. Banjo-Kazooie he thought was the worst game of all time because he's sitting next to the TV and after like 5 minutes of that he just turns to me and goes, "Really?
Yeah, you're gonna make me listen to this?" That's hilarious. I remember all the sounds.
But he would comment on the baseball game commentary because he was a baseball fanatic. Backwards and forwards, played it. He was scouted by the Mariners, like he knew baseball. Yeah. And periodically he'd be like, "That wouldn't happen."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Did you just throw a guy out at first from left field?" No, that's not a thing.
That's funny. So anyway, if you're a wrestling fan, you've been waiting for a decent wrestling game for a really long time, it looks like this might be the one. Will we review it next week on GameFace? Probably not. I just wanted to give you guys a taste, let you know kind of what the vibe is around the game.
That one's up to you.
Yeah, I know. I'm on
company owner. You throw yourself on that grenade.
We'll see how things shake out over the next 7 days. But anyway, I just wanted to put it on your radar because, again, it's been a while since there's been a good WWE game, and it looks like we finally have one with WWE 2K24.
I miss the gimmicks. That's what I...
What do you mean by the gimmicks?
I mean, like, everybody in this footage is just a guy with dark hair and a beard.
Yeah.
And, like, I miss when The Undertaker kind of might have been a zombie, and Kane was, possibly a serial
killer. The Undertaker also fits that
invincible.
description, by the way. The Undertaker also fits that description. Dude with dark hair with a beard.
But he had a gimmick. He came out of coffins.
But he was the first one.
He had Paul Bearer.
Right.
Those guys just all look like somebody you'd meet at a biker bar.
Like, or you just at any bar.
Yeah. I mean, at least Bray Wyatt had a hook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I agree.
But I thought that was cool. Like, that was old school, like, spectacle. Like, that seems to be gone
Abdullah
now.
the Butcher.
You had, like, the spectacle character weirdo comic book guys.
Yeah.
And you had, like, the big, like, stunt, the Hardys and the Owen Hart and Bret Hart, like, the guys who could do the technical stuff. And I love that. But, like, these guys are sort of, like, they're just sort of assholes
blank canvases,
who show up and look the same.
They do. Yep, that's for sure. So anyway,
John Cena had a good hook, but now he's an actor, so he doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah. I think he comes back every once in a while.
The Rock was great.
Yeah. He comes back every once in a while, too.
Steve Austin was great. Well, he just bought the rights to all the Rock stuff.
Did he?
He owns the name The Rock, Rocky Mavia, Smell What the Rock is. He bought all the copyright. He owns the copyright on all the Rock's little trademark things.
Interesting.
So,
what's he going to do with them, though?
I don't know.
Make shirts for Target?
No, I think that means every time the WWE makes anything that has that on it, he gets money for it.
He gets a couple pennies.
He gets money for it, which is a lot of money. The
It
Rock
could add
still
up.
sells stuff.
Yep.
So, and Vince McMahon is going to need some money soon.
It sure seems like it. Couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then actually we do have one small topic to finish off our housekeeping because I knew Matt wasn't going to spend a lot of time with Rebirth. I did continue playing. I've now played another probably 7 hours or something like that. Still have not got to the big pivotal moment that I've been waiting for.
That's near the end.
I'm guessing it's the last thing probably that happens in the game.
No, I think I know. I mean, it looks like they're taking it pretty much to the end of Disc 2.
Oh, really?
As near as I can tell. Maybe you won't get the high wind until later.
Okay.
At least not controllable. I don't know.
I'm surprised I haven't got to it yet, honestly. Like, I kind of
That's later in the game than you think it is.
Yeah. But I've continued to play it. I've now put another 7 hours on the clock in this game.
Sam, no.
And I'm still loving it. And again, the variety of this game, like, it just keeps popping up. Like, now I'm to the point where I'm in, like, the professional, like, chocobo races where it's straight up Mario Kart with, like, a really good, like, drifting mechanic and things. Like, it just, the new stuff just keeps, even 40-some hours into this game, I keep getting exposed to new concepts. Again, I will say, though, I still feel like they make you play Queen's Blood too much in this. There was one section pretty late in the game that I recently played through where you go to this, like, this village or whatever, and they're like, you need to do a bunch of stuff to have enough food to feed the chocobo so that you can then enter the chocobo in the real chocobo races. And so I went around the hamlet, and it looked like there were only 3 options, and you needed 3 pieces of food to feed the chocobo. And so I thought that I had to, like, win 3 matches of that game against opponents who were, like, highly ranked. It drove me up the wall because there's so much luck involved. It's a card game. So if the right card doesn't turn up, you lose. And it kept happening over and over where there was that one pivotal moment where the next card would determine who would win or lose, and I would never get the card that I needed. And they would win.
Like a good card game, you can mitigate that.
In this one, you cannot.
This does not. Square doesn't usually do games like that.
Yeah, and so
that takes a lot of time and balancing.
I played that card game for like almost 2 hours, Matt, to beat those 3 opponents, and then it finished, and I realized that over on the edge of the hamlet there was another activity that I could have done that took me 10 seconds to get a bundle of food for the chocobo. So if you get to that point in the game, don't be fooled like I was, thinking you have to beat those 3 opponents at Queen's Blood. There's other activities you can do that are much easier that'll get you the same food bundle. But anyway, otherwise, I've been playing the living crap out of this thing. Like, it was hard for me to pull myself away from it to play other games for the show this week, honestly. The combat has continued to get better. I've continued to learn more about it. As time has gone on, I've started to learn how to anticipate when a lot of the stuff comes online. Before, I was just constantly checking the menus to see if, like, my synergy was going to work, or if my limit was ready, or if my summons was ready. Now I've participated in the combat enough that I kind of inherently know, okay, I'm probably ready for this, and I check it. Sure enough, there it is. I've also learned how to better manipulate the combat so that I'm filling up my ATB gauges more quickly. I don't find myself without the ability to use items or cast spells or use an ability like I was for the first 20-some hours I played the game. I'll say this, the skill trees that you're seeing right now, they do kind of run out of steam pretty quickly. Like, eventually, there's nothing new. They're just like, add another 5% onto this, add another 200 hit points on your hit point total. It did kind of run out of steam pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's one of the things about certainly the first one that kind of annoyed me was, like, the upgrades felt so incremental, and, like, that was kind of mitigated in the original by how much you could fuck with the materia system and, like, put the right things together, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, look at that jump. Yeah. And it just doesn't, they kind of nerfed the materia. So
they did that?
You can't really exploit it the same way, which I understand. You don't want it to be a walkover.
Yeah.
But, like, that was kind of part of the fun.
Yeah.
That was also part of the problem I had with the first one was, like, looking at how, you start with, like, sort of like 2 materia slots or whatever, and you're like, oh, well, by the end of the game, you have, like, 10, and you have all, you can do anything you want. You're like, everybody's, like, super powered. But you knew you weren't going to get to do that in that game. Because you weren't going to, you're still not going to. Because you're not, they limited you to 50, and I don't know what the level cap is on this one.
Yep.
Maybe 100. Maybe they take it to 150 next game.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The other thing that I would say is there are some, later in the game again, like, there are some really touching moments in this game. I was, like, kind of surprised by it. Like, Barrett's story in particular. And I'll say this game in general doesn't change as much about the original game as I thought it was going to before I started playing it. Barrett's stuff pretty much plays out exactly how it did. Like, you learn about what happened to him in his arm. And then there's another character that's involved in that whole side story, and it becomes like a big part of the plot in Rebirth. And, like, it gave me a whole new perspective on Barrett. Like, I have looked at him as, like, this goofy kind of whatever happy-go-lucky guy who got cut up in some bad stuff earlier. That's how I looked at him from playing the original Final Fantasy VII. They give you way more context in this. Everything still plays out pretty much the same. Like, the results are the same, but you just learn so much more about him as a character than you do in the original game. I was impressed by that. And then to your point about the weapons, Matt, it's not even that they're just, like, incremental increases of what you already have. It's that, like, you have a weapon you're using.
Sometimes they're worse.
In some categories. They're, like, balanced. It's like there's no
That happened in the first one, too. Like, Aerith's weapons were worse.
Yeah.
Everything she got except one thing was, like, statistically... Unless you wanted... Basically, you had to either choose to keep her first weapon or lean super hard into magic with her.
Yeah.
Which was, that's probably what she's supposed to do, but it didn't feel good.
Yeah. Well, in this, it's like you get a new weapon, and then you look at it, and you're like, well, my attack goes way down, but the magic goes up a good bit. So it's like this, they're all kind of the same, but it's like, and again...
But then you run into an enemy that's magic resistant, you're kind of fucked.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying again last week about the fiddling, about having to go in and, like, change the materia. It's like, oh, I scanned this enemy, and, like, sometimes they'll, like, take away most of the party from you. And you only have, like, one person to use in the battle or two people to use in the battle. And you have to go and, like, change up all the materia or whatever.
Yeah, that still sounds like my thing with the first one where they just don't let you play.
Yeah.
Like, give me my 3 characters and let me run around and do RPG shit.
Yeah.
Like, that
There's a lot of menu
resistant
stuff that you do in this. But it hasn't really hurt my enjoyment of the game all that much, honestly. I guess what I'm getting at is, like, it's still holding up. Like, I'm at, like, hour 47 or 48 at this point. And it's still great. So... One of the questions someone asked me for Ask Shane Anything, and they asked Pactor about this a while ago, is like, should games be shorter? And I do think games generally should be shorter. I think that would help a good bit with a lot of the issues that we're having now with people being laid off in these projects that go on for 7 years, and if they bomb, the studio closes. I think that could help with it a little bit.
I think it depends on the game.
Yeah, but what I was getting at is then you play something like this, and you're like, this holds up for the whole 50 hours, and they keep adding new stuff, and it's not just padding where you're copying and pasting stuff. Like, a lot of, like, long games, let's be honest, they have enough content for, like, 30 hours, but then they just keep copying and pasting the same mission types and the same crap over and over to get it out to that 50 hours. This game hasn't really been like that at all. It really just keeps adding new stuff and improving your skills as a player as you go. But there are some games that I would argue that, like, the last 10 hours, you're like, really? Did I need to do that? Did I really learn anything from this? Or feel more edified having played those 10 hours? A lot of times that's not the case. That hasn't really happened. It hasn't broke down yet for this. So just again, I just want to reiterate, if some of you guys were still sitting on the fence about this game, I'm still really enjoying it. I know it's crazy. I know. I mean, I'm surprised more of you guys didn't comment about the fact that I like this game. After how much I disliked the first Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's a huge, huge tail whip turnaround. So anyway, again, if you're sitting on the fence, I still highly recommend this. I've been playing more of it over the last week. I've enjoyed it just as much as the first 40 hours that I played of the game. I'm still having a ton of fun with it. It still catches me off guard. It's still not mostly embarrassing. There's still moments where I'm like, that's a little cringe. But the cringe quotient in this is also way lower than I thought it was going to be. So I've been pleasantly surprised by the game overall. Congram says, the new weapons have abilities too, which you can master to use at any time. Yeah, so that's another thing. I'm glad he brought that up.
That was in the first one too.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he brought that up because there's Cloud's second sword has this attack where you jump in the air and you air juggle. And it's also infused with both fire and electricity. And it just works, like, on so many enemies and in so many situations. Because also it helps you get off the ground and start attacking in the air instead of being stuck on the ground. If you switch out that weapon, you don't have that attack anymore. And it kept me from switching Cloud's weapon. It's the second weapon that has that. I got to Cloud's 5th weapon before I finally switched to the new weapon. So, to your point, yeah. Like, those special abilities do matter a good bit. Toon Medic says, the first one was my game of the year for 2020, so I can only imagine how much... You will love it, man. Go buy it right now. God, what are you waiting for? And the Legacy says, do you like Final Fantasy VII 2 more than 16? No. Still no. I still like Final Fantasy 16 more. I'm more of a fan of the more serious tone of Final Fantasy 16 than this goofy kind of, I don't even know what the hell this is supposed to be.
It's shonen shit.
Yeah.
Basically, Final Fantasy 16 feels like it's written for at least 18-year-olds.
Right.
And this is written for basically
12 and 13-year-olds, yeah.
So, doesn't mean you can't enjoy it as an adult. I watched 80s cartoons that were basically designed for 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
So, but it also doesn't mean it's going to appeal to me if
true.
I wasn't already there and engaged.
Yep, so I am still loving Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Silk Snake says, I think it depends on the game. This should be long. Baldur's Gate 3 and Horizon Forbidden West don't feel long. I don't know. The last 10 hours of Horizon Forbidden West, I think probably could have been cut from the game, and I wouldn't have missed them. At that point, that game had become pretty repetitive, pretty redundant, and a lot of the quests at the end of the game, even though there were great side quests throughout the game, it seemed like at the end they really kind of faltered.
You kind of topped out at a certain point, and so doing the side quests near the end of Forbidden West was sort of like you had to be interested in what was happening.
Yeah.
And part of it was like I just wanted to see what happened, how it ended. So like there was part of me that wanted to just skip them and kind of get on with it. But that wasn't really the side quest fault. It was the fault of like I was interested to see what happened to the story.
Yeah, I could be.
I finished it. I did not actually finish the DLC.
I didn't finish the DLC either. I finished the base game, like right through. Like I didn't have to go back to it and finish it. I just straight up finished
I did go back to it before the DLC. I played about half the DLC, and I don't think I ever went back to it because it was in the middle of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I think about going back to it periodically, but then it's coming out on PC. But then I'm like, do I want to play that whole game again?
Yeah.
Not really. That's it. Not because I didn't like it, but because it's like 80 hours. It's like a time commitment.
Toon Medic also says, as a father of two under two, I would love it if the games were shorter. I can understand that. A lot of parents probably feel that way.
Well, you know what's
you just don't have the time that you used to have.
You know what's really short is Balatro.
Yeah, right. It is. Yep. See if you guys have anything else to say about it. I can't get enough of QB. I love it. What does that mean, QB?
Queen's Blade.
Oh, Queen's Blade. Oh, Queen's Blood. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It just got annoying that they kept making me do it after a while, and I just wanted to keep playing the RPG stuff. Vincent says The Rock is back in wrestling at WrestleMania this year. There you go. That's probably why that stuff's happening.
Finally.
Yeah.
The Rock has come back.
Yeah.
To WrestleMania.
Like for the 8th time.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like that's happened before.
It's like The Undertaker. It's like, dude, go home.
Yeah.
Take a break or something. Like we're worried. Like it's not fun watching The Undertaker anymore. It's just like, is he gonna be okay?
Like he may die in the ring. Yeah. And not from like getting a knee drop, just from like a heart attack.
Like that used to be Mick Foley's gimmick. Like you can't do that anymore.
That's funny.
And then also it's minor, but it was announced that there's a Mass Effect board game coming this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that.
And it's designed by Eric Lang, who is one of the best designers in board gaming.
So something to keep an eye on.
And then the co-designer.
That's set based on 3, right?
It's set during 3.
Yeah.
So Eric Lang did Blood Rage, Ankh, Marvel United, the others, like some of the best like miniatures on a map game stuff in the last 10 years. And the co-designer is a guy who did a game called Lands of Galzir, which is a super story-focused like exploration adventure game. Put those two guys together, you have all the ingredients for a great Mass Effect game. Video game board games are generally not very good.
Yeah.
I can only think.
Well, a lot of times they just clone it. They're like, oh, we're just gonna put like a Mass Effect coding over Risk or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's more like Monster Hunter is just like putting Monster Hunter figures in a pretty lackluster boss battler game. Like they do, or like there was a Deadly Premonition game that was just like a really basic social deduction game, almost Clue. It was like a slightly advanced Clue. The only good video game board game I played is The Witcher Old World, and obviously that's not just a video game.
Yeah.
Like it's drawing from other things too.
Sure.
So
you
can count that or not count that. But the pedigree on this designer, and he's been working on it for like over 2 years.
When is it coming out?
This year sometime.
Okay.
They didn't say when. But it's not a Kickstarter, so it looks it's actually just coming to retail. Doesn't come with all the characters. I'm a little irritated that Morden's not one of the characters you can play. Maybe they'll have some add-ons.
There's DLC, Matt.
There's always expansions. Oh, that's board game DLC is a thing.
I'm sure. Not surprised.
Anyway, yeah, don't dismiss that one if you're a Mass Effect fan. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we curated a story about that on SIFTD. Again, if you're not using SIFTD, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you will know more about games than anybody you know if you use SIFTD every day. With that, it's time to put the cap on our housekeeping and to hear a word from our... Oh, wait, I got to get there first. And it's time to hear a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. I could use an Ellis cream drink right now. I have the worst cotton mouth. Matt, I had a checkup recently. I went and got my annual checkup, and things weren't too good. I'll just round them up in that way. And so I need to make even more lifestyle changes. I already stopped eating like most red meat like a year ago at my last checkup. She was like, you need to stop eating meat. I stopped eating meat. This time she was like, you need to stop drinking anything but water, basically. And so I have tried. It's hard. It's really hard to transition to only drinking water, but that's what I'm doing. Like the last 3 episodes of GameFace, I've only been drinking water. It gives me the worst cotton mouth. I don't. Am I alone in that?
No, part of that's the stupid flavoring they're using for that.
Maybe.
Try smart water.
Really, that helps?
The different pH balance on it might help.
Because I love Hint. It is amazing. And by the way, this Hint grape is the best water I ever drank. But you're right. It doesn't quench my thirst. But those drinks...
Try cold smart water.
Okay. But I guarantee you one thing. If I had an Ellis cream drink right now, it would absolutely quench my thirst. I literally was almost drooling looking at the drinks in our ad.
Well, I'm sure they heard you talking.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to turn the mic down. But anyway,
we might know, but you're scrolled up.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, yeah, you got to keep me on it, Matt. I'll say this: like, I have not gotten sick of Ellis Cream. I've been drinking. How long has our sponsorship been going on now? Like a year or something like that. Roughly.
Yeah, more than that.
More than a year.
I've definitely brought it to more than one Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So at least I would say mid 2022.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, and thanks again. Ellis Cream, you guys are awesome. But I have not got sick of it.
Because he came when we were in the old...
Right, when we were in our last studio. That's right, yep. And I think he gave me, 12 bottles of it or something. I've drank them all. I'm still not sick of it. It's amazing because it mixes so well with so many different things. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Everything you need to learn about LS Cream, where to buy it, where to get it locally, where to get it delivered to your house online, to learn awesome drink recipes, all that cool stuff is all at creamls.com/sifted. Literally, I would argue probably the coolest website I've ever seen for a liquor. Usually it's just like, here's our liquor, you should like it, and then it's a splash screen. This is way interactive. It makes it very easy for you to find your own bottle. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted, and thanks once again to LS Cream for sponsoring GameFace.
Yeah. Retro Modern Gamer also points out the sparkling ice I used to drink.
Sparkling ice?
Sparkling ice is those tall, thin bottles I had, and they're very good.
Yeah.
They're like 5 calories, but they taste like soda. They're very strong flavor. There's a great grape raspberry. If you like grape.
I do. I like grape and raspberry. And the combo sounds great. But anyway, next time you're at your local liquor store, this is the bottle you need to look for. LS Cream. And you can probably find it next to the Baileys. But if you do find it in your store, I know what I do when I go in is I always tell them that it's better than Baileys. I'll tell the woman at the counter, I'll be like, it's better than Baileys. And I'm hoping that I'm like seating her so that the next time somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I'm looking for Baileys, she's like, you know what? There's this other thing that this guy came in that says better. Do it. Help out your fellow sifters. Help out your fellow gamers. Help out LS Cream.
What I do, a couple times I bought it at Bevmo, and the cashier, a lot of times they've said, what is this? Like, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
And so
I always talk it up.
So I tell them, it's really good. It's better than Bailey's. And I tell them, maybe this is more of an LA thing, but I tell them it's the only black-owned cream liqueur, maker in the country.
Oh yeah.
And they always perk up.
Yeah.
With that. And I'm like, that's a little factoid that'll let
that. You're right.
They'll tell that to someone next.
That's true. Yeah.
You got to spread the word. Spread the word like that, and you're gonna be like, it's a good thing to support rather than a faceless corporation that is Bailey's.
Absolutely. Yep. Support your fellow gamers, support your fellow sifters, support LS Cream.
It's a form of supporting local.
Yeah, it is actually. Yep.
Small business local.
For sure. Yep. And with that, it's time to get on with the show proper. We're going to kick things off with a game that was supposed to be in last week's show, but we ran out of time, and Matt had spent a good bit of time playing it. I said last week that then I was going to go and spend a good bit of time playing it. However, I will fully admit right now that I played about the first 90 minutes to 2 hours of it. I figured out what it was. I figured out that I don't like those types of games, and I stopped playing it. But Matt, you have spent, at least 20 hours with this game at this point?
Yeah. I usually don't like these kinds of games either because it's a survival game.
Yes, it is a survival game.
Survival scavenging game, but for whatever reason, this one doesn't bug me.
Why do you think that is?
I think because it's car maintenance and not like my character gets thirsty every 3 minutes. You know, like it's a little more.
But the car needs gas.
Reasonable. Yeah, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like you can carry extra gas. Upgrade the gas can to carry more. You find gas in things pretty regularly.
You siphon it out of cars.
I've never even gotten less than. I've never been down more than 2/3 of the gas tank.
Oh, wow.
I've never run out of electrical power. I've never died. I've never. It's pretty. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it is manageable. As long as you make the smart decisions and realize kind of what's happening. Like early on, I was sort of like, oh, if it's not a stable area, the storm comes in, whether you like it or not, or whether you do anything or not, and you got to get the fuck out. And so I've had to drive through some. There was one when I really screwed up once. The car was messed up. Like all this. Nothing got destroyed, but all the panels were down to red. And so I had to go around and I had to fix up what I could and then rip the others off and stick them in the little thing that you can build a thing that repairs them fully while you're out for on a mission. So I had to do that and then go do a simple mission in a close area to pick up more pressure canisters so I could build more or whatever the chemicals or something. So I could build the
let's
repair shit. It was a problem, but it didn't feel. Like a lot of times, survival games feel very almost random or punishing or just sort of unreasonable, and it never felt like that to me.
It just felt like so much busy work to me. In the time that I spent with it,
there is a lot of busy work. I mean, the process of maintaining is the game.
Yeah, I figured that out.
To make progress, you have to do that,
and that's why I bailed. I was like, Matt's played this for 20 hours. I see where this is headed. So, what's the plot for this game, Matt?
The plot is that a section of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington has been closed off for a long, 30 years or something because something happened there, and no one will say what, but they walled it all off, and no one's allowed in, and it takes place in 1998. And here you start out as a delivery driver, and you're supposed to go to the barrier wall and deliver supplies or whatever, and they get taken in, and nobody really knows what happens to them. But you accidentally hit a reality storm kind of thing because something's warping reality, and you get sucked into
a reality storm.
Yeah,
that sounds like the name of a rave.
You get sucked into it, and I stole that term from Sandman.
Okay.
You get sucked into it and dumped into the exclusion zone basically. And your van is ripped into pieces. You aren't. Luckily.
Are you just there by chance?
You're just a delivery driver, so. Clearly it's your job to deliver, but you never go in the zone. Nobody goes in the zone. But you get sucked in, and you find a working car nearby in a little lean-to, and it has a radio in it, and a bunch of people who are in the zone, and where it turns out were involved in what happened to the zone to start all this 30 years ago, can talk to you, but you don't have a transmitter, so you can't talk back conveniently because your character doesn't say anything. So it's basically
the character never talks?
No.
I wondered if eventually they would.
Not so far. I'm not done with the game.
Wow.
But no, I don't think so. Unless that's the big twist at the end.
He says something. Or she. Do you ever see the character?
No.
Wow.
It's just you. I think she's supposed to be you. And so basically you're getting sort of... It's like audio diaries. It's like there's Ophelia is like this old woman who's sort of this grouchy person, but she's sort of guiding you through the early stuff and how to survive in the zone. And it turns out, of course, she's one of the scientists who caused the thing to happen, and there's these two guys that she doesn't like who also chime in sometimes, who are more like blue collar guys who were caught up in all of it, and they're the guys that one of them is just they're they're outside of Seattle, but for some reason they have New York accents. It's like yeah, you gotta get through the zone, it's like that's how I'm a down to earth guy. So it's that kind of thing.
How much do they personify the car ultimately?
Not much. It's just...
I'm sure you remember the Stephen King book and film, Christine.
No, it's not that. But it is...
Nothing like that?
Well, the car is... what is it? There's a term for it in the game. But the car is like some kind of artifact or something created by the zone or maybe infected by the zone that is... Because you're attached to it. You become basically bonded with it. And the problem is that...
Literally or figuratively?
Like a little bit of both, but basically, it's never been a car, but there have been other objects that are whatever this. I can't remember the name of it, but it's eventually it will drive you crazy.
Oh, so there's a little bit of Christine in there then.
It's more like the One Ring.
Okay.
It's like if you're around this thing long enough, you will be consumed by it.
Okay.
And the zone will take you, basically. So there's a whole thing where they have to get you out. Ophelia is like, we got to get you out of the zone before that happens. And I don't want to deal with the results of because hasn't happened in years.
Okay. What do you mean, them taking over somebody?
No, one of these artifacts hasn't shown up in years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so the fact that it's that and that it's a car is very unusual. Mm-hmm. So they got to figure out how to get you out of there.
Or what about the car, though? What do they want to do with the car?
They're unclear.
They want to leave it in there because it's dangerous?
They don't really tell you that. I mean, I presume because the point is to get to the center of the zone. You start in the outer zone, you go to the middle zone, you got to get to the deep zone. And you'll find different crafting components as you go to each one, and that's how you upgrade everything. So here you see getting pulled into the reality storm thing there. And the problem, so you have like kind of a garage. That's Ophelia's garage that she's not at. She's just right, but like you go there, and that's where you can repair the car, recharge it.
You got to repair everything. The one thing that I didn't like about this game right from the get-go is how you have to do everything. So it's like I got in the car and I'm like, go. Oh no, you got to look down. You got to use your hand to like put it in gear. Then you got to look at the key and you got to turn it on. Like it's one of those games where it makes you do every little action. And then you get in the car, it drives like crap. And then you get to Ophelia's garage, and this is where the game started to turn me off, because it was like you have to repair like every panel, every headlight, and you get this putty that you slather all over it, and the body just magically like repairs itself. And then I will say this, like I took the car out on the road, it was like driving a different car.
Yeah, because the front right tire is flat when you get it.
So that part was like rewarding at first, but then I started to figure out that that's the game. Like you're constantly like having to fix your car and go through the same process all over again. It just felt like it was going to be tedious. And knowing that you had already played a bunch of it, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play something else so we can get another game in the show, basically.
I mean, it could be tedious, but it's like I think the upgrades feel good. Like once I finally got like upgraded enough to like, and it doesn't take long really if you know what you're looking for. But I was able to upgrade to off-road tires. Oh my god, that changes the game.
Oh, I bet.
I guess that's the third kind of tire. So you start with spare tires. You put on summer tires. I don't even know what that is.
Summer tires, just thinner tread, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next one up is off-road tires, and they're pretty. I had plenty of components because I'm a pack rat in games.
Yeah.
So I was able to build 4 of them and put them on, and it like raised and all of a sudden, like instead of skidding through the grass trying to get around obstacles and stuff, I'm just like driving over fucking trees. Like it was amazing. The only thing you got to watch out for because the off-road tires don't puncture as easy, because that was a problem with the summer tires when they'd pop, and you have to make another kit, a sealing kit, to like stick it on that and then pop them back up.
Yep.
But then the off-road tires will break, like they'll misalign, and you have to build a mechanic kit to like realign them or drive them misaligned, which
gets annoying after a while.
It's not as bad as driving with a flat, but it is not ideal.
Yeah, the realism in this game
you have to
was
kind of
surprising.
balance, like I gotta get there with not punishing your car too much, because it will in fact break.
Yeah.
You can crack the windshields, you can crack the headlights, you got to fix those. Now that gets a lot easier to deal with once you can because you can upgrade the car parts that you can build and put on the car. You can also upgrade the garage and build more storage space for components. You can build a thing that automatically breaks down stuff you don't need anymore and spits components back out.
You build very early on. You build a scrapper.
Yeah, the
that
scrapper
you can then
is the
take
first
to like
thing.
any car part, and it'll just turn it into material.
But the most
basically.
important thing to build first, as soon as you can, is the repair. The equivalent of the scrapper, but it's a repair cabinet,
tool,
basically.
yeah.
And you can put like maybe 5 or 6 car panels and stuff in there, and when you leave and go to a mission, when you come back, everything in that cabinet will be fixed completely.
Oh, okay.
For free.
That's cool.
And so, and eventually you can upgrade it to hold even more parts. So like at this point, I basically have 2 sets of car panels. And while I'm on a mission, the panels from the previous mission are repairing in that cabinet. When I come back, I just swap
Put them on, put the old ones back in the cabinet, let them repair while you go out again and make a run.
The other thing to remember is that the repair putty repairs something pretty much fully. So like slapping it on something that's only damaged like a quarter is a waste. Wait until it's like you can get 2 or 3 missions. I mean, I know that when you activate the thing, it like the thing tells you should repair your car up to like 100%. Don't fuck that. Like you're like that. It's lying to you. Get out there and you can go 2-3 missions. If your panels are down to like almost nothing, then you slap the putty on. Or even cheaper, once you learn how to make steel panels, you can just make more panels. It's way easier
than repairing.
Then you just rip them off the car, feed them into the grinder, and just make a new panel. It's usually more resource efficient than repairing over and over. Because repairing with the repair putty, you got to use a chemical to build that. And chemicals are rare.
Yeah.
Like you can't make a chemical. You have to find it in the world.
Yeah.
So it's almost always better to just make a new panel.
I've been
playing this game a lot.
This is the minutia I was talking about, though. I started seeing this stuff, and I'm like, I see where this is.
You're trying to figure out how to optimize. You're trying to figure out how to like get out there, because like the way like the game works is you start in the garage. Once you've got everything the way you want it, you can go to this like map planner, and you kind of have to pick where you want to go. And it's like it shows you a bunch of like locations, and early on you build an antenna on top of the roof.
It's one of the first things. Yeah.
We have one charge, which basically lets you plot a course to one place, and you don't have any control over how it plots basically. So you pick where you want to go. Like one of the early missions for the story main mission is you have to go like 2 away, and it kind of routes you through one area, and then you drive out, and only when you've got a route plotted will it let you leave an area. Through the roads.
Yeah.
That'll open the barrier on the road. So you go and you leave the garage, you turn left, and you go out that way, and then it'll show you the map again, and you don't have to go where the route shows you're going. You can pick anything near you, but theoretically, you go. So let's say you're going 2 away, you go to the next one.
You have to travel a good distance.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
And you go in, and you go in there. There's a little map on your car. You can't pull the map up with a menu. You have to look at the map on your computer in the passenger seat of your car.
Yeah.
And you can get stuff that detects stuff when you're out of the car, but you have to build that separately, and that takes up inventory space. And like so, you look at that, and basically you have to decide. So it'll show you either the exit you need to take to get to the next zone that you're actually going to, or if like nowhere else to go, it'll just show you the zone. And some zones are eternally stable, which means they will never be hit by a reality storm. If a zone isn't that, various things can happen. Sometimes there's just cyclone power winds everywhere, and like you'll be blown off the road constantly. But if it's not a stable area, you only have a certain amount of time before you'll see on the map. It looks like a big semicircle kind of moving in. It's a storm front moving in, and it's a reality storm. It's that yellow energy, and if you're in that yellow energy, you will be constantly damaged, the car and you. The car will protect you if you're in the car, but basically you only have so much time before your car gets grinded to powder if you're in that storm. So you have to plan your scavenging to get out of the zone before that storm hits. And if your exit is up where the storm starts coming in, that's even less time. If it's a stable zone, that'll never happen. You don't have to worry about it. But the key is you got to go around and collect things, collect components. You have to make sure you have enough in your inventory to store everything. You have inventory in the car trunk and in your person, and you can build more inventory for the roof rack and the side racks and stuff. You can eventually upgrade that. And you need all your equipment. You start with a crowbar that can, and then you can add a scrapper, which like grinds things into raw materials. You have a pneumatic hammer that smashes things, that like stops like generators, so you don't have to like worry about it being electrocuted. But those take up space, and they get destroyed after you use them a certain number of times. You got to be able to craft another one, that kind of thing. And then the other thing you do is like the map will show you these yellow circles. The yellow circles are energy specific, like called anchor energy, I think. And you can go there and pick it up, and it's a little orb, it's a little yellow orb, and you go to your car and you install it into the computer in the passenger seat, and it'll absorb it, and that gives you the energy. It'll give you like a little kilojoules or whatever listing. That energy is what you have to spend in addition to components to upgrade the car, get new blueprints, get new things you can add onto the car, get new things you can add onto the garage. It's also, you have to go past a certain amount of energy to activate the teleport system in the car that will create this giant towering like beam of light, and you have to drive into the beam of light, and it will teleport you back to the garage. But when you
I never got that far.
But when you activate that, the whole zone starts going crazy, and like things like the thing about it is like the zone is kind of conscious, like it's and like so it'll pop
thing.
It'll pop things up in your way. There's these magic little glowing purple zones that will pop your tires if you run over them. There's buzzsaws that run through the ground in set paths.
Wow.
There are living like rolling mines that will attach to the car and electrocute it. Tons of weird shit. This thing called the left-right.
So the zone is sentient, basically.
The zone is somewhat sentient.
Wow.
And it will put things in your way intentionally.
Wow.
And it's very good at figuring out exactly what would be least convenient for you at the time. You're up against the environment in a way that the environment seems sort of aware of what you want to do and will make life difficult for you.
So
there's a balance between like I want to pick up all this anchor energy, but every time I do that, it destabilizes the zone a little bit. So it may be you collect all of it, and now it's kind of going crazy. Now I gotta get to the next zone. Cool, but you bring it all back with you, and you can do a lot of upgrades.
Yeah.
So like that's sort of
that's reward system.
That's sort of the loop.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 different kinds of energy. There's like the starting stable energy. There's unstable energy, and there's corrupted energy. And in the outer zone where you start, you get stable. In the middle zone where you get to kind of after a few missions, there's unstable, which is where the next level of that's the energy you need for like the next level of upgrades. And then there's corrupted, which is in the center zone, and that is where you get and the other thing about it is the more unstable, the higher level the energy, the more crazy the upgrades are. So it's like early on you're talking about steel panels, insulated panels here, a little more resistant to electricity, acid proof windshields, like things like that. But then like once you got like corrupted energy, you're talking about things that are like this can basically teleport you out of danger if something goes wrong and something gets it's like the unstable and corrupted energy are basically let you build magic parts. So like the upgrades get even weirder, which is pretty cool. I haven't gotten to corrupted energy. Getting through the mid zone is like, that's harder. It's a lot harder. And you got to get there every time.
Right.
It's but you get really good at it. That's the kind of the satisfying curve of it is like when you first get into like one of those like outer zones, you're sort of like, oh my God, how am I supposed to get this? Is crazy. Like it's like there's a reality storm here and the winds are 60 miles an hour and I keep getting blown off the thing. But then you realize like if I load the car down with more upgrades, it's heavier.
And
so I get to
sticks to the road better and
and the off-road tires help too. So eventually you get to that and sometimes you'll be in the middle of some of this shit and you're like, oh, I'm running low on gas. I better so you can find a gas station. But then that gas station's infected by these electric porcupines and you're like, oh fuck. It's there's always something and it's like it's fun in that way. I don't generally like survival, but the thing is
that's my next question. Why? Both you and I generally do not like games like this. What is it about this one?
Because you don't have to maintain the person. Like your life can drop if you're in electrical, radiated zones or whatever. Especially when you're picking stuff up. Like sometimes you'll realize the radiation goes up in the building you're in, and you're slowly losing life. But you pick up tons of canned food, and you make med kits whenever you want.
So keeping the human
alive is super easy.
Yeah,
barely an inconvenience. And but the car is really sturdy. Like if you're obsessed with keeping the car in tip-top shape, it's going to be super annoying. But the car can take tons of damage before you even need to worry about it.
Gotcha.
Like, and we have to wear off all the panels before its HP is even starting to get damaged. And like it doesn't matter. Like the damage doesn't make anything perform worse. Like at one point something landed on the car and it destroyed the hood. Like the steel hood it killed it. Like it was just too much damage. It shattered. So now any damage to the top of the front of the car was damaging the engine directly. So that by the time I got back, the engine had like 1/3 of its life gone, but it doesn't perform any worse.
Right.
And it normally isn't getting damaged because normally I have a hood on it.
Yeah.
So I realized I don't really need to fix that. So my engine has been only 2/3 health for like 13 hours.
So it's not that stringent, basically, is what you're getting at.
It's not as frustrating unless you get kind of wrapped up in this whole, I have to keep the car perfect before we go out on a mission. You don't.
Okay.
Like the car, as long
Does
as...
the game message that okay? Like, can you figure that out, like, early on?
I figured it out early on. The game didn't help do that. Because the thing... it's pretty obvious to me, but the thing is... when you activate the diagnostic thing, it's sort of like it gives you things to do. Check the friendly dumpster, which is a dumpster outside the garage. It will give you what it thinks you need.
Oh,
which is like if you're
magical.
If you don't have any wheels, like if say you're missing a wheel and you haven't crafted one, it'll give you a summer tire.
Oh, okay,
that kind of thing.
All right.
Or
that helps a little bit.
If your scrapper is down to almost nothing, it'll give you a new scrapper.
Oh, okay.
Like it's smart, and you find those at gas stations all through the zones. And so the friendly dumpster is a good thing.
Okay.
And they'll tell you, like, charge your thing, heal yourself, repair the car. But the repair the car goes up to 100%. And, like, if you're sitting there thinking, I got to fix it to 100% before it lets me leave, no, you can leave whenever you want. Like, just don't. The diagnostic thing is trying to help you, but it doesn't, it's not the law. It's not a quest you have to complete before you leave.
What I was hoping you were going to tell me, Matt, is that the story is so damn good and engrossing that it helped me look past all these things I usually don't like.
No, it's interesting, but it's not like, it's basically, it feels like Half-Life.
Yeah, it definitely has that vibe.
Or the Mist, which obviously Half-Life is based on the Mist to some degree. It's like that thing. Oh, something happened. It ruined reality, and we don't know what it is, but we got shit to do. Yeah. That's basically it. So, and there's like sort of the thing where you start to uncover the mystery of like what Ophelia did and how this thing happened, and you're like, I mean, you've seen this science fiction. You've seen Welcome to Night Vale. You know what this is. It's kind of a standard creepypasta sort of thing. But it's fun to drive the car around and like. I do enjoy like having to start the car and take the brake off and then have to but also like it as this thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to stop and leave, but if I do this, if I pick up this energy, it might start like a fucking earthquake.
Well, Matt,
so sometimes I will leave the car running, which is using gas.
Yeah.
I put the brake on. I leave the headlights on, which is using electricity because the battery doesn't charge. Apparently the alternator doesn't work properly. And I'll go over and I'll open the passenger side door, so when I run back with the energy, I can just slam it in and go around the car, get in and go, because I don't know what's going to be chasing me.
The first couple times I stopped, I just stopped, got out, and then the car took off. Because you're not used to having to hit stop put it in park, and
now there is an upgrade.
Turn it off.
There is an upgrade that turns the parking brake on every time you get out.
Oh, okay.
And turns it off when you get back in. So
that's the kind of game it is, though. You have to do everything.
Yeah. But it's like everything's a resource balance.
Yeah.
And so also the other thing that can happen is the car does develop quirks when you're out in the zones.
Like for every player, it could be different.
Yeah, it's a huge number of random things, and basically the way you fix it is there's a little diagnostic machine in the garage, and what it is you go to it, and you have to at every quirk, it's a thing that the car does when you do something else in the car. So you have to diagnose it by saying object, verb, when, object, verb, and then arrow causes object, verb. So the thing, and
it's like a Mad Libs puzzle.
Well, it's like you have to figure out what's causing the thing that's happening. And so the first one that happened to me that it took me a while to notice it was the passenger side door kept opening.
Oh.
Like I get in, I close all the door, I get in, and then like when I got out again, the door would be open again. And I'm like, is it broken? Is it
a bug?
And after a while, and I realized, okay, that must be a quirk. So I have to pay attention to what's happening, figure out when that happened.
What causes
it? And it turns out that disengaging the parking brake made the passenger side door open. So you go in to quirk diagnostic thing, and I said, okay, right front door opens, arrow. It's parking brake off, right passenger door open.
Okay.
And it says correct. You get you have 8 guesses.
You can guess.
And
if you guess the quirk, does it eliminate the quirk?
No, you have to then pay some resources to build a kit that fixes it.
I should have known.
But if you guess wrong, it will tell you how many you got right.
Okay.
So, and you have 8 guesses per quirk.
Yeah.
It's so you got.
Most cars do have quirks like that. It's kind of cool.
Probably not engage parking brake. The door opens. These are magic quirks.
More like if you try to lift up too hard on the turn signal.
There was another one. There was another one where every time I turned the headlights on, the radio turned on.
Oh.
Which seems more. That's more of a normal.
Also very Christine-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that'll happen. That stuff happens, which gives a little personality to the car. And it's like you don't have to fix. There's nothing negative to that. But if you don't want the door open all the time.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And the other thing is...
It's a quirk. It's annoying.
It is a quirk. It's annoying. And the door thing was annoying because when you have all the doors closed, the sound of the storm isn't as bad.
All right.
So you can kind of hear yourself think a little better. And it was like the door's open and you hear on this. I'm just like, that's really annoying.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
So you fix it.
Also, I should note, like, it's pretty impressive technically.
Yeah, it's a good-looking game.
It's a good-looking game. There's an art style to it, so
Yeah.
it's not like super realistic.
Yeah.
But the draw distance goes forever.
I think the art style helps with that.
Art style helps with that
yeah.
for sure. But like it's pushing the system
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
well. I have everything maxed out.
Are you playing on PS5?
No, I'm playing on PC.
Okay.
So I have everything maxed out, including the mirror. Like the big performance suck is
Yeah.
if you turn the detail in the mirrors up maximum.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's
like,
reflecting the whole world.
But like,
behind
you know what? That side mirror is maybe the best car
Makes a
mirror I've
difference.
ever seen in a game. Like I can see everything all the way
Yeah.
back. There's no cutoff. It's like you see it's a perfect mirror.
So this game is $30. It's
Yeah.
only PC and PS5.
For now, it's PC and PS5.
Eventually,
I
I'm
would guess
guessing.
it'll come to everything
Yeah.
eventually.
And then you could probably get this to run on Switch okay.
I would think. I mean, it probably won't look as good.
They won't
but
let you put the side mirrors on, though.
No, the side mirror will probably be rudimentary if anything.
It'll be like a gray
Yeah.
haze or whatever.
You don't really need it anyway,
Yeah.
unless you're. It's just a nice to have. That's the thing is like there's an element of just simulating what it's like to drive a beater car,
Right, yeah.
That like is fun.
We've all had one,
It's like, and you
yeah.
can tweak the thing to do anything you want. Like it's pretty cool how you can modify it because like you get a bunch of options of different. You can have an insulated car, you can have a acid proof car, you can have a radiation proof car. You can put spikes all over it. Like, yeah, I have a device because one of the big things that was annoying me was those electric mine thing, the little porcupine things. They're called bunnies, actually. The bunnies would jump on my car and they just stick to the car magnet and just electrocute it. The whole thing is, and then if a part gets fully electrocuted, it'll just be electric for a while and it's draining your battery. And if you touch it, it hurts you, which is annoying.
Yeah.
So I put a device in that I can activate it, and it basically it's like a EMP thing that just blows them off the car.
All of them off the car.
It makes it so they can't stick to it.
So it sounds like there's an answer to every issue.
There is. It's just,
and a big part of the game is finding what the answer is to the issue.
Yeah, it's being able to have the right energy to get that blueprint, and then having the components to build it, and then having the room in your car to install it.
I hate blueprints, by the way. Every game that has blueprints, we have to find the blueprint before you can build something.
Well, in this one, you don't find them. You there's a computer in the back of the thing, and you go in and so there's huge trees. There's like, I want to say there's 12 upgrade trees, and you just go to them and it'll tell you need. So now I want to build off-road tires. It'll be like you need 3 rubber, 2 steel or whatever, and you need to spend this much of the anchor energy. And if whatever you brought back is what you can spend from that. And you hit that, and the blueprint pops out of the little pneumatic tube. You pick it up, and he looks at it, and like now you can build it. So you go over to the crafting table, and now you can build those tires.
It's like Rocket League. I literally have like 8,000 blueprints, and I've never done anything with any of them.
You don't need to find blueprints in the world and hope you found the tire you need. You get to choose exactly what that is. All that matters is that you have the equipment you need to build it. The things you find in the world are cosmetic customization. You can find paint and decals and things that hang from the rearview mirror, hood ornaments, dashboard ornament. I have a Godzilla on my dashboard right now. It like wiggles back and forth with a bobblehead in his mouth.
Yeah.
I think a couple other things you can. I think a couple other things. Shifters. I have a
shifter knobs.
I have a jet fighter shifter on mine right now.
On your station wagon.
And then you can put decals all over the place. This is.
They have a skateboarding is not a crime sticker.
They might.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't found too many. And then paint. You can have all kinds of paint and all kinds of text. So you can I found a wood paneling texture. So if I wanted to turn it into an old time Woody, I could do that.
That's cool.
Those all use different shelves and different upgrades for the game. So you want the detailing station when you can, because that lets you customize all that stuff, and it also lets you dump all those things you find in it, so they're not in your inventory anymore. The other thing that is the detailing. I think it's the detailing station. That is the thing that's making the chuds mad, because when you build that, the first thing it unlocks is like, no shit, like 30 different pride flags.
Oh.
Like every imaginable gender expression or sexuality,
baby.
it all scrolls up. It's like every kind of like, aromantic, asexual, bisexual, pansexual, abrosexual, like things I've never even heard of. And it just goes. If you can think of it, it's there. You can splash that shit on your car, and they are so mad.
They don't have to put
Like
it on
I
their
love
car.
that. I love the game even more now.
Would you recommend this game?
100%.
I mean, you've got a lot of time out of it for a $30 purchase.
If you're on PC, I don't know about PS5, but on PC there's a demo. Progress does not carry over, unfortunately. But I played the demo during the Next Fest thing, And I'm like,
is the demo still available?
I think it is.
I wish I knew that because I spent $30 on this game.
Well, yeah, because you didn't even get as far as the demo.
Yeah.
If you didn't go through the beam of light, you didn't get as far as the demo.
Yeah.
Things. So I played the demo and it ended, and I was like, oh, I would like to play more of this, really.
Yeah.
And then when it came out, I bought it and replayed the part that I'd already played through the demo. That's how you know I like this game.
That's a good point.
Because I do not do that.
That's a good point.
If I don't have to.
Yeah.
But no, I thought this was great. But I would definitely say play the demo first, and it will tell you whether you like this or not.
It's a very unique game.
Yes,
And even for people like us who've been playing tons of games for years and years, it's still unique for sure.
Vincent says the demo's gone.
That's okay. I don't feel as bad, thanks, Vincent.
That's too bad.
Like as big of a sucker as I did.
I mean, I think this is a good game to have a demo for.
Yeah.
Because
it is so different. Yeah.
I mean, I like the trailers, but I'm like you. I don't like survival games much, and I would not have expected myself to like this.
I'm surprised how much you like it.
Unless I tried it for free, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I do like this. I will buy it when it comes out, which is what I did. So yeah, I can't really tell you whether you like it or not. All I'll say is it's not frustrating to me the way survival games usually are, because you're not gonna die in 5 minutes if you don't remember to drink water or like.
Yeah, that's
don't
what I hate about
constantly
survival
Yeah,
games.
like the car is gonna take damage, but I never even come close to getting killed. And
Pretty
I've done
hardy.
some stupid shit. Like I've taken the jump. I'm like, I'm gonna see what happens if I take that
Yeah,
jump, and
yeah.
I popped all 4 tires, and like it's just like it's really
And you still
dumb
survived.
stuff. And I still
Yeah.
got through it. I still got out. I mean, obviously, I'd maybe had to waste time going on an easy mission to gather equipment so I could like repair some stuff, or like let stuff repair in the repair cabinet.
Yeah.
And like then I felt more comfortable going out into more dangerous
Knowing
areas.
when you came back.
Yeah. But it's after a couple of trips out, you're gonna know what's dangerous and how
You start to
mitigate
figure
the
out like,
risk.
oh, okay, I can actually have
You're
some
gonna
fun
know
with
what you can do and what it's gonna be a dumb. Like one time I was driving past, I'm out running the storm. I'm trying to get to the exit down there, and I look at the map, and purple energy, corrupted energy, shit you won't get until the middle of the map popped. It
Little
popped
patch
up
of
in
it.
the storm,
Oh,
and I'm like,
geez. Run.
I could drive into the storm and go get that, and I'm like. No, that would be dumb because
Yeah.
I'm already pretty damaged. I've been through 3 zones. I'm at the. I should go home. I got
need
to
to
get to the
turn
next
around.
one
Yeah.
to complete the story mission, and then I need to go home
Yeah.
because like I'm
Yeah.
running
You need to
out of
repair.
equipment.
Yeah.
My inventory's full. I don't know. I don't even know what to do, and like so I'm like no.
You
I'm
went
gonna be
through it?
No, I didn't. I was responsible and I left.
Went back, okay.
I did not go there because I'm like, you know what? It hasn't even told me that kind of energy exists, so clearly I don't need it yet.
It probably would destroy you too.
Yeah.
Something crazy would happen.
Yeah, I don't even know if
you'd lose everything.
Knowing that game, I got to do some upgrade to the computer to even let
Right.
it process that kind of energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, the game taught you that though, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So
I just assume that everything needs some upgrade before it can do the thing I expect it to do, which is
why I quit playing it because
Yeah.
I figured that out very quickly.
yeah, it is an upgrade. But I will say it feels very satisfying once you get that upgrade.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna play it, the first thing you should do is build that cabinet that repairs things in the garage, and get the off-road tires. The off-road tires are a complete game changer for the car.
Okay. There you go. That's Pacific Drive. It's available for PlayStation 5 and PC. Eventually, we think it'll probably come to everything. But for right now, it's just for those 2 platforms, and it's $30. And Matt says pick it up without any question.
Yeah. Oh, Matt Zola, do you defend yourself? You can use like the scrapper and the pneumatic hammer as weapons if you need to. Like you can use the scrapper to kill the bunnies, the little magnetic
Things
mines,
that attach.
and
Yeah.
you get equipment. But I've never tried to use it to kill like an electrical field. Like I don't think you can. I think you just have to avoid the electrical fields and like the puncture energy field thing, like
Gotcha.
those. But like the actual object things, yeah, you can fight those.
Okay. But there's really no combat in the game.
Not real. I mean, it's rudimentary combat that just sort of like, okay, I'm gonna, like deal
Yeah.
with it. But generally, you're gonna want to avoid because everything is just weird.
Yeah.
You can't fight a portal
No.
or like a
Right.
giant column of stone popping up.
Right.
Out of that's always fun.
Those are your enemies in the game, though.
Yeah. There's a field where it's just a line, and and if you drive over it, it just pops you up in the air like 100 feet, and you just sort of have to hope you don't land on anything bad, and that'll do damage to the tires, like, no question. But like sometimes you got to do it, because you carefully avoid drive around it, and then when you're coming back that way again, you're being chased by the storm, and you're just like, I got
whatever.
I got 30 seconds.
Going over.
We're jumping it. You know?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of game, and it's fun. And usually like you're gonna pay a price for it, but it's not gonna kill you. You're not gonna lose an hour of time because you decided to do a jump and you landed and the whole car just falls apart. Like that doesn't happen.
Okay. There you go. That's Pacific Drive. Again, it's available for PS5 and PC. Next up, boomer shooter territory, Matt. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about Star Wars Dark Forces, a remaster of Star Wars Dark Forces. I did play this, and I like it more than Quake 2.
Yeah.
It's better than Quake 2.
It is better than Quake 2.
Yeah, but still a very similar vibe. In fact, when I was playing this, I thought about, oddly enough, Helldivers 2 a lot, because this game has a lot of things in it that people have since decided that's a bad way to do things, and the games have evolved. Shooters have evolved, so they don't do them that way anymore. A lot of Helldivers 2 stuff is stuff that shooters got out because people complained and hated them. Now they brought them back, and people consider the game fresh because it's brought back.
Did you see Helldivers 2 has accomplished one of the rarest feats in gaming? It has sold more copies in second and third week.
Oh,
it is.
Then the first
sales
week
have increased each week through word of mouth.
Yeah, I can see in the UK charts, like the first week it was like 8th, and then it was like 4th or whatever. So it has been moving up.
It's also done that here.
Yeah,
according to Sony.
Yeah, but anyway, it's
remarkable.
Like I was looking at this game and I'm like, this reminds me of Helldivers 2. Like Helldivers 2 has a lot of things that people used to find annoying, and they removed from shooters because people complained about them. Now they put them back in, and for a lot of people, that makes Helldivers 2 feel like this fresh game. And this game has a lot of stuff in it. Like, I got stuck on weird stuff in this game, like not realizing that this texture is actually a door. And it's like, I would run around in circles. I'm like, where the hell am I supposed to go? And eventually, I would just run around the peripheral and just start hitting the action button, and a door would open. And I'd be like, oh my God.
While playing this, I was definitely thinking, like, this would be a lot more annoying if I didn't have most of this game memorized.
Yeah, see, I didn't. I had, like, hardly any of it memorized. And so
I played this, I can't remember how many times. I must have played this game 30 times.
Yeah.
Like, I could walk through this
game. It is a pretty short game. It's only, like, 6 hours, something like that. Maybe a little longer.
Long. It's more like 10 hours.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of missions in it.
I played it for like 5 or 6.
Some of these things are those. I mean, this is one of the original giant maze FPSs. Like, you look at the level design, like the top.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, it's
like all the tenets of level design that we've come to learn and know and expect from games. This just throws them all out the window. Like, there's just like best practices things that games just don't do anymore with level design. This game's like, F that. Like, you find like...
Well, because that didn't exist yet.
Right.
Like, it was just...
Yeah, they just haven't...
This is what first-person shooters were.
They hadn't figured it out yet.
This is Star Wars Doom.
You'll find, like, the pathway that you need to find to go forward in the weirdest places. Like, over in the corner of the level, there's, like, a little nook that you go in, and, oh my God, look, there's, like, stairs that go up. And, like... The sense of discovery in this, I would say, was, like, very surprising. I'd be like, whoa! Like I didn't realize those things were doors for a long time. I just thought they were just a texture on the wall. And then eventually I'm like, oh, if you hit the action button, the door actually...
like the thing here, like, what's the point of this room? Because, like, you might run through here and not realize that you picked up a key from that officer you killed. And then you run around, like, not understanding, and then you're like, what does it open? I don't know.
Well, it's like, I get to the end of the level sometimes, and I'm like, why is it the game ending? And then they're like, oh,
right.
you didn't find one. You didn't find this thing yet, and you need to go back through the whole level to find it again. Because the map is kind of cool. You can like overlay it over the game while you play, but it doesn't have any icons to tell you where you're supposed to be going.
And then like you have to like when you do get to the end of the level, you have to go to the menu and hit
next
end the
mission
level because the engine at the time did not have a way to hit a flag that tells it.
Yeah.
Because the only way to do that was to put a flag down where the mission ends, and you couldn't tell the flag, no, it doesn't end until they've accomplished these objectives. So you had to let the player end the mission. There's
all kinds of like archaic stuff about this, but I still enjoyed it because one, it's really easy. Like you basically just blast through the game. Like I think I died maybe like twice the whole time I was playing it. And if you do die, like the spawn just spawns you like 10 feet away from where you die. It was just very easy.
Yeah, you actually have a limited number of lives in this. It expects you to die.
Yeah.
Like it's a different game from a different era.
Yeah. I still enjoyed it.
It was a little weird to me to use mouse look.
Yeah.
Because the game it didn't have that.
I played it on PS5, so
I played it on but even using an analog control, because like on the original game, It was keyboard.
Yeah.
That was before you used mouse to look in first. So you had to use page up and page down to look up and down, and you didn't need to because it auto aimed the way Doom did. So if you were like you before, you were kind of down below and the stormtroopers were up there. If you just pointed in their direction, the bolt would just go up and hit them.
It still kind of does it. Like the auto aim in this is pretty generous.
The auto aim but the auto aim in this is non-existent compared to the original game.
Yeah.
Like the auto aim used to I'm talking about like a 45-degree angle.
Well,
it just shot for you.
Here's the other thing I noticed about this game. Like, if you're up high and there's enemies down on the ground, you can only look down so much. Mm-hmm. And you can't shoot the enemies sometimes. They'll, move into the zone where you can't actually shoot them. It's a relic. And part of that was kind of enjoyable to go back. I'm guessing that's why some people are enjoying Helldivers too. It's like a nostalgia type thing, maybe.
There's a nostalgia thing to it, but also I think it's just like... One of the things I keep seeing from Helldivers 2 is people are just... They find it refreshing that the game doesn't give a fuck about you. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not help you have a good time. Yeah. It's just, here's the shit that's happening. Good luck. Like, people are kind of down with that now.
Well, because it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, people are just looking for anything that's different at this point.
Well, because at the time, like, say, Call of Duty, revamped how first-person shooters worked, it was doing the opposite, because until then, first-person shooters did not give a fuck what happened to you.
That was my point.
And so a first-person shooter that was going to kind of curate that experience and sort of like lead you through it and make it more cinematic rather than punishing, that was novel.
That's my point. That was the point I was making earlier, is that like what a lot of people like about Helldivers 2 are things that were intentionally removed from the genre because people hated them. But now it's been so long that we've had that stuff out of it that now it is in. You're like, wow, this feels like a new thing.
Yeah, well, so I would argue that they didn't hate them. It was more like they saw that as limiting its audience. Because the thing is, I don't think the people who loved Quake ever had a problem with the fact that it was a giant maze. You had to find all these stupid keys
Well, I think some of it, like Team Damage, people generally hated Team Damage forever and ever. And now there's Team Damage in Helldivers. It's different. And people are like, this isn't like the shooters I played for the last 15 years. I can understand that. But I lived through the era where you played that stuff, it sucked, you hated it, and then finally over time it was eliminated and you were like, thank God. And now it's just kind of come all the way back around full circle because we've had those player-centric contrivances in these games for so long that now not having them feels like this fresh new concept.
Well, and also the theory of Helldivers, I think, is because it's co-op, no one's going to kill each other, which is clearly
I got
untrue.
killed all the time by other players.
There's always going to be griefers. I've seen plenty of clips of people that, like, everybody gets in the dropship and the last guy runs in, kills them all in the dropship, and then gets in the dropship himself. But
people kicked me right before the dropship.
Well, the other thing is it's not clear. The game, Helldivers 2 didn't make it clear. I think they added this in a patch. They didn't make it clear that everyone gets everything. Yeah. Like if you run out in the middle of wherever, if you all split up and you run out and you do something and you get like whatever stuff from completing some point of interest, everyone gets the thing you got.
Yeah.
There's no one picks it, because if people don't understand, if someone else picks something up, you get it too.
Yeah.
And the game doesn't really explain
that. A lot of
that.
games don't explain that very well. Yeah. It's not just Helldivers. But anyway, let's get back to Star Wars Dark Forces. This game is set right after the first film, or right before the first film, is that right?
Sort of. It's the first mission is. The first mission has you getting the Death Star plans.
Yep.
And bringing them to Mon Mothma.
Yep.
The second mission is after the Death Star is destroyed. And here you see the briefing. And basically there's a...
this stuff's all been touched up.
Yes.
Like big time. These cinematics.
And the Moff, I can't remember his name, but he's building Dark Troopers, which modern fans will recognize as the droid troopers that Moff Gideon uses in The Mandalorian.
Yep.
This game is where those come from. And he's building these things, and they can drop on a planet and basically massacre everyone on the planet way faster than normal stormtroopers. And they attack a rebel base, and so Mon Mothma has the recording and tells Kyle Katarn, who in this game is actually a pretty badass rogue-looking dude, whereas in the subsequent games he sort of became like Alex Trebek with a lightsaber. Yeah. He's one of the most milquetoast, boring characters in all of the expanded universe. And when people talk about how I wish Kyle Katarn was still around, I don't know why.
No, he's like
because he's
uncharismatic.
Yeah, he's completely uninteresting. Yeah. Also, I love the people that are just like, Rey sucks because she's a Mary Sue and she just gets force powers automatically. I'm like, Kyle Katarn went to a magic valley, said his dad was a Jedi, and was given Force abilities for free. And at the end of
Which makes no sense,
And at the end of the second game, he just gives them back to the Force Valley. And then in Jedi Outcast, he goes back and says, actually, I would like those powers back. And he just gets the powers back. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. He kind of breaks the IP in some ways, I feel like.
And he uses dark side powers. It's just like, no, I just got to keep it back. Like, no,
no.
Obviously it's more fun to be able to shoot Force lightning in Jedi Outcast, but like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah.
Not in the old canon, not in the new canon. Like that's not.
Yeah.
It's there because of a video game. So then you're basically assigned to investigate this Dark Trooper thing, and you do, and eventually you fight the Dark Troopers, and you fight the Moff guy in a big like Mecha Hitler. I mean, basically the same boss fight as Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
You know. But it's fun. It's good.
There's boss fights, not too frequently, but there's a few scattered in the game.
There's like there's rancors. I think there's Dianogas in the water. Like there's some stuff. This is from the era where LucasArts would basically be like, "What's popular right now? Let's do that, but hose it down in Star Wars juice."
Yeah.
And like that was a pretty good strategy.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, I enjoyed this. Even playing it now, I still enjoyed playing this game.
Yeah, I liked it. I intended to sort of play through a couple levels, and I played through 8 all in a row when I first started.
I played more than that actually, even.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the game was putting up so little resistance, other than getting lost.
Yeah, getting lost is the main obstacle.
I ended up playing the game after I recorded this B-roll with the map on almost at all times. Because it's just so it's much easier to figure out what parts of the map you haven't been to yet. That's usually where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean, usually I remembered where everything was, but
I did not.
The funny thing, the funny thing is, the few times I didn't remember or I didn't find things that look familiar, is because they look too good.
Yeah.
Like I had to go through. I'm like, oh, that right. I didn't recognize it because it doesn't have that shitty texture that I used to use as like a way marker. Kind of thing, because now everything looks a little better.
I think my biggest complaint with the game, other than it's an old shooter that I don't really play games like this anymore, is the gameplay is kind of crap. Like, the aiming, thank God for the auto aim or the aim assist, because it's like, it's so floaty. And then if you there's like some areas where they make you jump like precisely, and it's like,
yeah, well, that was shooters at the
oh
time.
my God,
Well,
dude.
also remember that
the momentum, it's like, it's impossible to
like this
stick your
blaster is inaccurate on purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's a blaster.
Yeah.
At distance, it's almost worthless.
The Stormtrooper blasters are clumsy and random, whereas if you switch to your Briar pistol, that is basically a sniper weapon.
Yeah.
You can hit much more accurate, but it's half as powerful.
Right.
But that's why the Stormtrooper blaster takes 2 ammo.
Most of the enemies in this are fought close up.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I feel like I ever had to snipe or whatever, and they aren't very good at sniping either in the game.
No, as long as you know how to not even circle strafe, just sidestep, you can get around most of it.
Yeah.
The most dangerous things in are the guys that throw grenades.
Yeah, but that's why I enjoyed it, because it was just like a mindless blaster through old school Star Wars, and I was like, this is good enough to entertain me for a while.
I appreciate that they kept the dead bodies as sprites.
Yeah, they lay there. You go back and they're still there like a long time
Well, then they
later.
rotate around as you walk around them. The Stormtrooper's feet will always face you.
Yeah.
That's a hallmark of those days.
It was so funny, too, the ship that like drops you off and then takes you away after you
the
finish.
wings aren't even connected to
Dude,
it.
it's literally like made out of 8 polygons.
Yeah. But at the time, it was like, oh my God, a spaceship came down. Like you never saw that.
It's great. Yeah. So I enjoyed my time with this. I think $30 is maybe a little too much.
$30 is a little steep.
I think 20 is probably a sweet spot. I would have felt better about it if it was at $20. But
I appreciate that. You could get it cheaper, the PC version on Steam, like the old PC version, modded up. But this kind of does it for you, and it supports modern controls better than the old one does.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of bells, and that's the thing that I was surprised by. At least Quake 2 did add the kind of the compass, like the where to go next marker.
This is pretty much
this
the game
on your own.
Yeah.
This is pretty much exactly what you would have played then, except it supports analog controls.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Other than controls sucking. Like the jumping in this is so hard.
The jumping is, it's just like, it doesn't feel any worse than any other shooter at the time, but it is not what
now
you're
it
used
feels
to.
weird, yeah. But I still enjoyed my time with it. Like, I had a good time playing it. And I was kind of surprised at that, because I didn't enjoy Quake 2 really at all. But it does kind of show you how an IP...
Quake 2 was always worse than this game, though.
It does show you how your love for an IP can spackle over a lot of rough spots. It did it for me with this game, for sure. But yeah, $30 for me, it's a little too steep. I would probably wait until it drops to 20, and I would imagine it won't be that long. You'll be able to find it for $20. But it's a simple game. There's not a lot to it. Some people, again, may want that refreshing, like, old school vibe that this game has, a little bit like Helldivers 2. It's like a little bit of a throwback, but not quite. It it brought a sense of nostalgia to my soul.
I think if you liked the and I did play this game a lot back in the day, so it's a nice little trip.
Yeah.
I think if you like that Warhammer boomer shooter, like this is probably gonna scratch.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that.
Bolt Gun.
Bolt Gun.
Bolt Gun's better than this though.
Yeah, it is. Well, because it's made now.
Right.
But like it's a similar kind of run and gun. Like there's not much else to it. Go hunt the switch thing.
Very simple. Yep. Find a switch, flip it, and then fight a bunch of stuff.
I will say if you find the hunt a switch key card thing annoying in this, but you're going around saying Jedi Outcast is the best Star Wars game, you just haven't played Jedi Outcast in a very long time. Because that's all Jedi Outcast is too.
I mean, let's be honest. A lot of old games are that way.
Oh yeah, that was
just the way it was.
Standard.
Yeah. Yep.
And like
the difference is we lived through it. Other people look back at it.
And nowadays, I kind of there is sort of like I remember that. It doesn't mean I'm going to play all of Jedi Outcast again, but maybe I won't be as annoyed as I was at the time.
Yeah.
Because that was just how everything was.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what?
We didn't know any better.
Giving me my lightsaber and then have the whole next level be a bunch of snipers in the middle of get hit once and fall off at the ledge and you die level. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't want to do that.
There was parts in this game where it really started getting annoying. Like there was like one section where you have to jump a bunch, and then if you finally made it through the jumps, you round the corner and there's a dude there that just blasted you and just blasted you off the platform. I was like that's old school stuff. That's just a lot of games used to do stuff like that. They're just like, I'm gonna mess with you. Like you're gonna go through this tough part of the game, and you're gonna come around the corner, and we're gonna knock you off and make you do it all over again. Except this time, you'll inch around the corner and you'll shoot the dude.
Now you know.
Yeah.
And knowing is half the battle.
More than half the battle with games like this. So anyway, that's Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster. Definitely not a remake. And it is available for pretty much everything. Yeah, it's on I think every platform, even Switch.
I mean, your phone should be able to run this. So
and it probably will.
Yeah.
I saw where somebody, and this is curated and sifted right now, where a dude got Vice City to run on a router. On a T-Link router, got Vice City to run. That just shows you, like, one, how weak those old first 3D consoles were, and two, how powerful everything is now. Yep. It's really crazy. So anyway, there you go, the Star Wars Dark Forces. Next up.
Your watch has more power than the computer that sent people to the moon.
Oh, I know. It's insane, really, that they went to the moon with the technology that they had. It's really insane. I would not have got on that ship. No effing way. Next up, another kind of smaller game, but it's an IP that has been growing in popularity over its last couple entries.
I don't even know what this is.
It's a game called Expeditions, a MudRunner game. It is the semi-sequel to SnowRunner. It is a technical driving simulation. Do you know what technical driving is?
No.
So it's driving where you go
like driving a technical.
No, it's technical driving because you literally go like a third of a mile per hour and you're trying to navigate insane off-road terrain.
Right, but aren't those trucks called technicals?
Some of them are. Yeah. In Europe, they call them technicals. Here, not so much.
And in the military.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. But it is about, here's the thing. In this one, in the other games in this series, there were roads. And a lot of it was like, how deep is the mud? How deep is the water? Can my truck get through it? In this, there really are no roads. It is 100% off-road. And it's all about you reading the terrain very slowly, figuring out how the weight is distributed in your truck, and making sure that you don't flip over. And if you do flip over, you have the tools to flip back over. You have a winch that you can use. You have a bunch of, you can hold, R1, and it brings up a wheel menu of all the extra things that you have. So you have, a winch that you can tie to different points on the car, and then select a different point in the environment, like a tree. Eventually, you get the ability to screw the points into rocks. So you have, these devices that you screw into rocks that can give you a pull point. Because it's important. If you start pulling yourself and you're off angle, it can also flip your car over. So
that reminds me, in Pacific Drive, if you flip the car, it just teleports back up onto its wheels.
Oh, really?
And if you get stuck on something, you just kick it.
Oh.
You kick it until it's not stuck. And there's an achievement for kicking it 3 times.
That's hilarious.
So not technical.
Yeah. The other thing, too, other than the fact that,
there's a bunch of shots in this that are just well, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah. It's, the other thing that's changed, other than the fact that there are no roads in this one, are the mission objectives. So it used to be this series would be here's a load of stuff, haul it from point A to point B without flipping your car over, basically. Now, it's not really about hauling at all. You still haul stuff. Like, before you start a mission, like, you'll take an extra gas can with you, or you'll take, like, extra car fixing parts with you in case, like, you break down or you have a problem. But what you're doing is going to someplace to do something now. So you'll go someplace and set up, like, a satellite dish, or set up an antenna, or go and discover a landmark, find, like, ancient ruins. There's some missions where you literally, like, dig up dinosaur bones and, like, excavate dinosaur bones. So there's a lot more context around the missions in this than there were in prior games in this series. And to me, that makes a big difference. It's frivolous in a lot of ways. Like, you just get to the location and hit a button, and then the little satellite dish is assembled or whatever. You can see, like, here you can eventually you get the ability to world build in the game as well. But the mission objectives having some kind of a context to them made a big difference for me as far as sticking with this game, because this game requires a F-ton of patience. Like, you can get stuck in this game and never figure out how to get out. And there's not, like, an easy way to reset your vehicle. You can't go back to, like, 10 feet before. Like, literally, you have to hit start, go into the menus, go back to the main menu, and then start the mission over again. There's no easy way to just be like, hey, let's just backtrack. There's no rewind button in this at all. And it can be very difficult to figure out, like, exactly how your vehicle is going to interact with the terrain. The physics in this are pretty accurate, but they're not accurate enough, honestly. Like, they need to be better than they are. I found that it was unpredictable to know what your truck was capable of once you took it out into the field, just based upon the stats and the data that they give you about each vehicle. There's 3 different environments in the game. There's Colorado, Arizona, and Central Europe. Each of those 3 are completely different as far as the type of terrain that you drive in. This is Arizona, so it's mostly arid, but there's a lot more water than normally you would have in Arizona. So there's still plenty of mud, and quicksand is one of the elements in the Arizona missions as well.
One of those things we thought was going to be more of a problem in adulthood.
Yeah.
than it turned out to be.
When I was a child, I was terrified of quicksand. I literally had nightmares about being trapped in quicksand when I was a kid. As it turns out, there just isn't that much quicksand out in the world.
The cartoons are corrupting our youth. No, the cartoons are making us afraid of quicksand. Yeah. That's what they were doing.
If you look down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, this is where it's supposed to get really technical for the player. So you can choose your gear. You can choose to just put it in automatic, where it's like a higher gear and you have higher speed, but you can't get up hills as well. Or you can put it in low. And then up above that, you see like the 2 icons. The one on the left is for all-wheel drive, and the one on the right, I think it's for just like rear-wheel drive. Or no, the one on the right is like flipping your differential or whatever.
The one on the right is all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Because I just saw the tooltip pop
and
up.
the left is turning on your differential. So if you have both...
Yeah, because the wheels in the front are turned a different direction than the others.
So if you have both of those on, it's supposed to make you like ultra climber, like super truck. But I have found in this game that, like, sometimes putting it on automatic is way better. 1, you go faster at all times, but 2, I found it even gets out of mud better a lot of the times. Like, again, the physics in this game are not perfect, but you have to rely on them for everything. Like, even simple stuff, Matt. Like, you're looking at this right now. You're like, oh, you can just drive through this. No. Like, that puddle to the left, like a little bit forward and to the left, if you go into that, you'll get stuck and never get out. Like, eventually you get a sensor that tells you how deep the water is, but, like, even using that, it seemed like there was no rhyme or reason to whether you would get stuck in stuff. And then you can, like, get stuck. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to flip the differential. I'm going to put it in low, and I'm going to go into all-wheel drive, and you still can't get out. And again, a lot of times I would just have to hit start and just start it all over again. So you can see that icon there with, like, the yellow flag. Like, some of the missions in this game are like, you need to discover everything within this circular zone. And it will let you send out a drone, and it will sometimes, like, check off some of the territory that you need. But what I found is, like, you get to, like, 97%, and you cannot find the last 3%. It doesn't matter whether you got the drone out or whether you're driving all over the damn map. Finding that last 3% of the map can be almost impossible. There's just not enough feedback, I guess, for the player. I mean, as you see on the left hand...
on things like that, when you get to like 95%, it should start guiding you to the remainder.
Yeah, there's nothing like that in this. You really feel like you're all on your own in this game.
This seems like a game, if I was going to get it, I would get it on PC specifically to be able to mod it.
Mod it, to make it more user-friendly. That probably would be a good idea. And this series, to be fair, was birthed on PC. Now it's on everything. Literally, it's for this game in particular.
I've never even heard of this.
You've never heard of MudRunner or SnowRunner before?
No.
They've been given away for free on PlayStation Plus before, and Yeah, and the last one sold like 3 million copies or something. Like it's this little sleeper hit that a lot of people have
Final
resonated.
Fantasy VII numbers.
What? Yeah, good one. The other thing I would say too is this game is different from pretty much anything that you've ever played. But like the tutorial and the instructions are way too obtuse. Like I said, they don't tell you how to really discover all the pieces of the land you're trying to find. They don't really tell you how the drone works. They tell you how to activate the drone and how to fly it around, but they don't tell you like exactly how it works as far as discovering territory. Like the game is just way too obtuse. There's other weird things in here, like some of the text tools that pop up, like the text wrap is broken and like it's one word, but there's actually 2 lines of text. Like there's goofy kind of janky stuff in here like that, which I was kind of surprised at considering this is like the 3rd or 4th entry in this franchise.
Some of that stuff just never gets
gets fixed. Never gets better. It's kind of weird. Yep.
It kind of reminds me of Euro and American Truck Simulator.
Yeah. This same vibe.
Yeah.
In the bottom left, when you're out in the field, is where you have like all the kind of stuff that's in Pacific Drive, honestly. You have to monitor your gasoline. So if you're going up hills, you're burning a lot more gas. If you're sitting in a mud bog, like with the gas put down to the floor, burning your tires in place, you burn up a lot of gas. So like I said, before missions, you need to figure out what you want to take with you. Extra parts in case you break things, extra tires in case you get a flat, extra gas in case you run out of gas. Some of the missions in this game can take over an hour, and there's no mid-mission checkpoints. So if you fail, you have to start it all over again. Because again...
It's like Dark Forces.
A little bit, yeah. But again, you look at this, you're like, oh, I can just cruise through there and get over there. No, you'll try to do it, and you'll get stuck on like one rock. And that one frickin' rock will hang up your truck, and then it becomes a process of how do I get off of this rock? You start using your winch to try to pull yourself off, but oh, that's flipping me over. So you try to flip yourself over a little bit, hoping that you'll fall back down and be off. That's the type of game it is. Again, it's all about patience. And a lot of people will hate this game. There are some people who will absolutely love this game.
Yeah, this seems to be for a very specific person.
It's not even like about the genres that person likes to play. It's literally about their personality of whether they will like this game or not. The game is.
Do you like trucks, and do you like trucks in a very certain way?
Yeah, seriously. It's linear design. Like it's just one mission after another. You don't really have any like leeway in how you would take them. You finish one mission, the next one unlocks, and then you go. So there's really not any freedom in how you actually make your way through the game. And there are choke points in this game. There are missions that are hard as hell. And you're just like, damn, I just wish I could just stop playing this for a while and go play something else. But you can't. You have to get through it because of the way the game is designed. But the driving is the antithesis of that, though. You can literally go wherever you want.
This feels like that was almost a fuck around and find out situation there.
What, when going through the water? Yeah. You don't know until you get in. Like, at this point, I don't think I had the depth detector yet to tell me how deep the water is. And it's like the old saying goes, still waters run deep. And it works in this game as well, for sure. And then the other thing about this game, too, is that it's gigantic. Like, this game, I've played it, I don't know, like maybe 10 hours, something like that. It's like 60 hours long.
Get your money's worth.
I mean, when every mission can take you an hour, it doesn't take long for that to add up. But it is a big game. If you decide to plunk down your money for this, you definitely get your money's worth. And the other thing, too, is that this game is not like a $30 or $20 game. The prices for this were all over the map. I found it for $40. I found it for $50. I found it special versions for $60. I found the ultimate special version for $120. So I think it's mostly $50. Like, that seems to be the median price for this game.
I imagine this is like a DLC bonanza.
Oh, yeah. They release new trucks and new like things that you can hook up. And again, as you get further into the game, there's a whole base building, world building element that comes into play, too, where you're plunking down buildings and things like that. One thing I would say, too, about the vehicle handling is that there's a ton of different trucks. There's so many different ones, but they don't handle all that differently. Like, I have a truck like this, which is like a big, like, to your point, a technical. But they also are just like SUVs. And so shockingly, they do not drive all that differently. Like, it feels the kind of the same no matter which vehicle you choose, which is weird. Like, obviously, vehicles with a higher ground clearance, they're going to be a little bit more effective in really rocky terrain than just a normal SUV. But as far as going through, like, mud and things like that, I didn't really see that big of a difference between all the different vehicles that I tried out. But see, look at this, Matt. You would think, looking at that, you can just go up that hill, right?
Yeah, well, I would switch to all-wheel drive.
Nope. But look, there's a little boulder there that's keeping me from doing it. And look, now I'm going to go, okay, now I'll try. I'm going to go in reverse to back up, hoping I can get a little bit of momentum to go up the hill. Like, this is how you play this game. It's a bunch of trial and error. You go from low to automatic gears. You turn on your differential. You turn it off. You turn on all-wheel drive. You turn it off. You're like, oh, that ain't enough. I'm going to back up, try to get a run for the hill. Then you get stuck on, like, one boulder or one rock or whatever. Again, it requires a lot of patience and LOD. Look at this engine, Matt. It has LOD problems, and you go 1 mile an hour. Which might be a new record.
Some of that seems like it's having trouble keeping up with how many tire tracks are being left.
That could be, yeah, because you keep backing up and like going over the same tracks.
Erasing your old tire tracks, but you've been there so long that you're watching it erase them.
Yeah.
And then that ground isn't. Seems like you missed a texture there or something.
Well, I think it's blurring because I think it's trying to draw the tire tracks basically. But see, there it finally goes.
Like, that looks worse as you get closer.
Yeah. But notice, like, all of a sudden the truck just went up the hill. And look, you can see my settings on the bottom right there. I didn't do anything really. It's on automatic, and it went up the hill, where it wouldn't go up the hill and low. And that, to me, is kind of a fatal flaw in this game. Like, you should see a bigger impact on changing the setup of your trucks, I think, anyway. I felt like, it's like, so you get to there, and you're like, oh, God. Like, how do I make it past this? Like, where's the tree at that I can hook my winch to? And there you go.
At some point, you just got to get out of the truck.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you, boys.
Yeah, it doesn't let you do that, unfortunately. And then the winching system's a little weird. Like, you can upgrade it so eventually your winch length is farther. Because sometimes you have to hook it to a tree that's, like, off to the side. It'll make your truck roll over. So in like where you can attach the winch to the truck versus it's a little janky on whether it'll let you attach to the trees or not, or I don't know. Again,
it's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, I was trying to slide by on that little. This is what the game is, though. This is what the game is. So what you're seeing here on this B-roll, this is what it's like when you're playing it. You got to try stuff. Oh, that doesn't work. Take out the drone. Fly overhead. Can I find a pathway around all these rocks to, an easier way to get up? That's what it's all about. And it goes on and on for like 50 hours. So, again, this is a very specific game for a very specific type. Cut, exactly. Cut the B-roll until I almost figured it out, because you don't want to watch me going back and forth for forever. But even here I get stuck again. And I have to winch to the tree, and the winch pulls me up over the rocks and blah, blah, blah. So, again, this is a very specific game for a very, very specific type of player. I know not everyone's going to like it. I don't even think really I liked it for the most part. I am not a particularly patient person for certain things in life. Other things I am. But I was not very patient with this game. It definitely started to grate on my nerves a little bit.
You certainly weren't patient with a cactus.
Yeah. But I will say this. It does give you a nice sense of accomplishment. When you finally get up that hill and you finally find that last piece of land that you needed to sink 100%, it feels pretty good, but then you have to start the next mission.
Are you just supposed to send a drone up there and not the truck?
No, No, the truck was supposed to go up there. You sent the drone up there first to scout it, to figure out how to get up there, basically.
But did you not send the drone first?
I did, yeah.
Well, because it's not giving you the check mark. There you go.
See, again, there's like weird issues with this game. Like, things don't always work the way that they're supposed to.
I don't think you needed to go up there.
Oh, I did, definitely. Yeah. Because I already scouted up there. So the mission starts, and it's like, you need to get up here. So they send out the drone, you send the drone up there, and it does check it off. Like, okay, you flew the drone where you needed to, now you need to drive up there. Again, the game is just a little janky, a little off. Things don't always work exactly as they're supposed to, which for a game like this, I found pretty annoying. So, I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's some people are big fans of this franchise, though, and really, really like it. I'm not one of them. I can kind of see the charms for some people. But again, it's for a very specific type of player, someone who's extremely patient and enjoys like very challenging games that give you a nice sense of accomplishment when you finally complete missions. So again, it's Expeditions, a MudRunner game. It's available for pretty much everything. I found it for $50 for the most part, but I also found it for $40 in one spot, so you might be able to find it a little bit cheaper. I would say I'd buy this at like $25 or $30, something like that. You see, eventually you get binoculars. They do keep giving you tools that are supposed to help. Like the binoculars are supposed to help you mark territory, but it only does it so much. And so eventually you pull out the drone and you send the drone around to do it, and that only does so much. So eventually you get back in the truck and you drive the truck around trying to find the spaces that you haven't visited yet. It's a little bit, or a lot of bit actually, of trial and error. There you can see there's like an airdrop. So if like you're running out of gas, you can go to the airdrop and they'll have gas cans there and spare parts and things like that. And those come in handy later on when you're playing the longer missions where you have almost like checkpoints between your objectives and you're running out of gas and your car's beat up and you're like, oh, thank God I found this airdrop so I can put more gas in, I can repair the things, I can continue on with the mission. So I think I've given you a pretty good lay of the land as far as how this game works at this point. You also have a sense of dread in this game. So, like, I saw, for example, okay, they want me to go down the hill, and I'm like, how the hell am I ever going to get back up the hill? Like, it makes you second guess, like, all your decisions. You're like, oh, I might be able to get down here. I probably will never be able to get back up.
Okay, you discovered a new ford, as in a river ford or a truck
You mean
ford?
like a fjord?
A fjord's different from a ford.
It is, yeah. I don't know, actually. This game is made in Europe, so they do use some terminology that's more common in Europe.
Fording the river is a thing. You cross the river, you ford it. But, like, it capitalized Ford.
Which should not be.
Which should not
be. Which is like the truck.
Yeah. Are there Ford trucks in this, or does it even get that branded?
I don't think they are, no. Yeah, I think all the vehicles are fake. I don't think they're actually licensed vehicles. So, yeah, I don't know, like, if there actually is a Ford in there. I don't know what you saw there. But, again, I saw all kinds of stuff pop up in this game where I was like, what the hell was that? Like, just weird little anomalies or glitches or bugs or whatever.
What was that, a TUZ 16 Action?
TUZ, T-U-Z, 16, I mean, that's Action?
Yep, there it is.
Is it real?
No.
Yeah.
It is in SnowRunner, though.
Yeah.
TUZ Action real life. Oh, yeah, it's based on a real truck, but it's not called that.
So they didn't license it. They, like, copied it without paying the money, basically.
Yeah, it's, I guess
Not surprised.
in real life, I think it's called a GAZ 66. It looks
Okay.
like.
All right.
Shishiga.
Anyway, there you go. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it is a smaller game. And again, I know it does have a limited audience. Big Smoke 82 says it reminds me of Death Stranding. I mean, it is a little bit of like a delivery simulation. I can see.
Apparently, it's the same people that do Spin Tires.
Yeah. It's the same franchise, Spin Tires is. Yeah. It's just like an offshoot of it. It gets a little confusing.
That was a Soviet truck. No wonder.
Vincent says it appears to be 40 on PC, 50 on console, which is very strange. Yeah. But I saw it for both 50 and 40, and again, there are like the higher versions, the collectors of the edition or whatever the crap that sell for the more expensive versions. Again, I would feel more comfortable if you told me you bought this at like $25, $30. That's to me a little more in the wheelhouse for this game. But they have a bunch of fans, so my guess is they'll sell 1 million out of the gate for the 40 or 50 to the fans, and then they'll drop it down for people like us who are just like mildly interested or whatever. But again, that's Expeditions, a MudRunner game.
I don't know if I say I'm mildly interested. That's not a game I would probably play.
Yeah. Well, if you get it for cheap.
Even so.
Yeah.
Time. We have a finite time in this earth.
We're a little older, Matt.
Yeah.
We look at things a little differently than some of the younger folks do. And I used to look at things a lot differently than I do now. So, again, that's Expeditions, a MudRunner game. It's available for everything. You can find it for $40 or $50. I would not pay that price. I would wait until it drops a little bit, unless you're a fan. And if you're a fan, you probably already pre-ordered it. All right. And with that, it's time for a word from New York Sneaker Society. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. So, man, I think I made a big mistake. I let it be known that I have these awesome cleaning kits and tools to clean shoes, in our household, and now my wife wants me to start cleaning up all her old shoes. My wife also, believe it or not, is kind of a sneakerhead. Like, I think that's one thing that I've rubbed off onto her. She also is, like, way into, like, Air Maxes, and, like, she's been collecting, like, nice Air Max Nikes for a long time, and she's been seeing me clean up my shoes. I've been getting out of the closet and seeing the results and been like, hey, I got some 270s that, like, I was using to work out in, and I never cleaned. Like, can you clean them? So be careful. You end up being, like, pulled into duty on shoe cleaning. And again, I say it every week, but you can save yourself so much money by getting yourself a shoe cleaning kit at nysneakersociety.co/sifted. Like, tennis shoes are at least $100 pretty much now. And I guarantee you have shoes that you think are worthless just because they're dirty, that have been in your closet. You maybe thought about throwing them away or whatever. Get a kit from New York Sneaker Society. It will blow your mind at what they can do and how they can revive shoes. Shoes are way too expensive to throw away. Now, obviously, if you worn out the bottoms, there's not much you can do with that. But if you have shoes that are just dirty or got worn or scuffed or whatever, you will be shocked at what a cleaning kit from New York Sneaker Society can do. So head on over there again. It's nysneakersociety.co/sifted. And along with that sponsorship comes a little segment that we do every week called the Sneaker of the Week, where we pick one game that during the week kind of snuck into our conscience or started creeping up our most anticipated lists. And this week's game is a game, Matt, I think that you are very fond of, although it's the sequel, and that is Greedfall 2. We finally got the second trailer for this game. This is Spiders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Greedfall, Matt, so close, much like Banishers, so close to just hitting that AAA level of polish and content and everything else. Greedfall, same deal. So close to hitting that AAA action RPG stratosphere. Hope is with the sequel here that it'll actually happen. But we got
Spiders is threatening to be one game away from being the next BioWare for about 3 games now.
Yeah. They haven't quite got over the hump, but they're very close. And this game looks like they're inching even closer. And this is only the second trailer. We got the debut trailer, which didn't show a bunch, and then we finally got this one. And this one put it right on my radar for something that I need to pay attention to. Now, I don't think the game is coming until the end of the year. I think right now it's scheduled for Q4 2024.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that slips.
Me either. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a 2025 game. Again, because we're only getting the second trailer of this game in March. So we'll see. Maybe they're further ahead than we expect because we still haven't seen gameplay. This is not gameplay, obviously.
No, this is in-engine, but it's not gameplay.
Yeah, this is in-engine cinematics that they've shot, they basically pulled out of their code and grabbed direct feed from and then cut it up into a compelling whole. But Greedfall 2, Greedfall 1, we both were fans of that game. Matt, you were a big-time fan of it. I remember when we talked about it on GameFace. I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people really liked Greedfall.
Because BioWare didn't make these games anymore.
Yeah.
So like anytime I get one that's even halfway competent, it's nice to see.
It's kind of a hole. Yep, totally missing in the release calendar. So anyway, that's one to keep an eye on. Greedfall 2 only announced for PC, PS5, Xbox Series right now.
Although apparently they are confident that Dragon Age 4 will release late this year.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that. And I don't believe it, do you?
I believe they want it to.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will.
I don't think it will. Maybe financial year before March, maybe.
They'll do. I think they will do the big unveil in late summer.
Yeah,
but
E3-ish time.
But in terms of playing it by Christmas, 50-50.
That feels like a pipe dream to me because we haven't seen any of it. We literally haven't even seen like...
Well, seeing it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we haven't even seen like any real in-engine stuff from that game yet.
No, we saw the leak.
Right. Well...
Right, but what I'm saying is them deciding not to show it doesn't mean anything about how far along it is. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Like it could be almost done. We don't know. Like they're just playing that one close to the chest for reasons that I don't really understand, but probably have something to do with the fact that if this thing doesn't sell like 10 million copies, BioWare Edmonton's going away. Probably.
Yeah, you're right.
Like EA doesn't seem to. I mean, for all their original IP, it's like, yeah, well, here's your only original IP other than Mass Effect that anyone gives a shit about.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're about to shut down the company that makes it. So, and probably hand off Mass Effect to some
God knows
hack internal who got
That's a nightmare.
I don't trust any of those people at all.
It's hard to trust them at this point.
They're calling the shots.
Yeah. They've made
BioWare,
a lot of dumb decisions.
BioWare. I mean, the EA corporate is.
I know what you're talking about.
Has been making bad choices for a very, very long time.
Yep. But anyway, there you go. That's Greedfall 2. It is our sneaker of the week for GameFace 379. And with that, it's time to move on to our last topic of today's show.
You think that Microsoft thing's going to have Silksong in it?
I hope so. That'd be nice. That'd be real nice. It kind of is way overdue. Our last topic for today's show, we're not going to spend a ton of time on it. We're going to talk about Splatoon 3, the Side Order DLC. And normally I don't want to talk about a ton of DLC on GameFace because a lot of you just don't care, one. And two, like, just organically, DLC is not going to be as popular because people play the base game. They may have liked Splatoon 3. 10% of them are going to actually buy.
If that. It's always amazing when you can see the percentages on the achievements or the trophies. It's always amazing to me how few people actually play the DLC.
Yeah.
Like, even on, like, old game, like, I think the Spider-Man 1 DLC, it's still like 1.5% have like the basic trophies from that. It makes me wonder how it's worth it to make it. It feels like not many people get it. It's like you should just chop it
and move on to the next project. I agree. I don't get it either, Matt. But anyway, the reason we're talking about this DLC is because it completely changes Splatoon. It is a roguelite, brand new single-player campaign.
It feels like they're really pushing this IP away from the multiplayer thing.
I don't know if it's away from the multiplayer. I think they've struggled to find a good single-player strategy for this franchise.
Yeah.
So I think they're using the DLC to experiment.
But they're trying so hard as opposed to just expanding the multiplayer version.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like if they were happy with that, they would just keep focusing on adding new things to that. But they really seem to want to find a single-player mode here.
They do. And I don't blame them. Like, I love this franchise, but the single player has always been lacking. It just feels like it's a tutorial to learn how to play multiplayer. And this is not. I mean, this will help you learn the basics of Splatoon, but this is a roguelite.
I don't know who I am. Who am I?
Yeah. And basically how it works is there's a whole plot behind it as well, and a whole new area. So you open Splatoon 3, you go to the main hub area, and now there's a train station that you can go to that will take you to Inkopolis, which was the setting for Splatoon 2. So you go to Inkopolis, you get there, and this cinematic just kind of kicks off, and it starts the whole thing. There is a plot behind it. You play as Agent 8, which is a character from Splatoon 2's Octo expansion. And as I said, you go to Inkopolis Square, which is also from Splatoon 2. And basically, the whole thing is set in a metaverse. You may be noticing, like, it's all kind of monochromatic, like it's all grayscale. There's not a bunch of color. That's because this all takes place in a metaverse, like everything else in video games and pop culture anymore. Off the Hook, which is the little fake show that plays when you boot up Splatoon every time, one of those characters named Marina has gone missing and has been taken into a tower by an entity called the Order. And you play as Agent 8. You must fight up through 30 floors of the tower to get to the top to rescue Marina. And also Marina's sidekick, Pearl, is now the little robot that follows you around. So her personality has been transported into the little droid that is your sidekick throughout the whole thing. It even fights alongside you once you start playing the game. So the Gelatons are a new race of enemy. You're seeing them here. They're basically like animals covered in gelatin. And a lot of the mission objectives in this, each floor is very small. There are these very small, self-contained environments that you go into. And most of the objectives are pretty much just wipe out all the gelatins. But they do end up mixing it up a little bit. So, as I said, each floor is extremely small. There's 30 of them total. They're like tiny little self-contained gauntlets where it's pretty easy to see what you need to do to progress. There's a boss fight that happens every 10 floors. And then, obviously, the final boss, which I'm not going to spoil it. You probably can guess what that is. But there's 3 total bosses in the entire game. And they do make you think about the game in different ways versus the rank and file levels that you end up playing through for the most part. The mission objectives, as I said, most of it is just wipe out all the gelatins, but they do mix it up a good bit as well. Some are horde modes where you'll take over a little section of the map and have to defend it as the enemies flood in. There's one where you shoot, there's a turbine that you shoot, and then it spins and goes along this predetermined track. You have to keep shooting it until it gets to the end. There's others where you have to push balls into a goal. Overall, I would argue this mode could use a lot more mission variety. That, to me, is what wore thin really quickly. Even though there's only 30 missions, that's all the mission types that I just gave you. That's pretty much all of them. So you're doing each one of those 6, 7 times a piece or something like that. It does wear out a little bit. Like most roguelites, you do only have one life. But one thing I would say that this is different from other roguelites is that the levels don't get mixed up as much as they do in other ones. I've noticed that I've tried to replay, and went through, and, the first stage was still pretty much the same as the first stage was the first time that I played through it. They're changed a little bit, but the game is trying to build your skills, so I feel like it's a little difficult to just completely randomize each one when there's specific things you need to teach the player with each one of them, at least for the first, 10 stages anyway, until it runs out of all its tricks. After you finish each stage, you go to a screen and you get a chip. And basically, you pull out this board, and you can place the chips in the board, and there's 60 total chips, but they're buffs. So in that way, it's very much like other roguelites, where you finish a mission, they give you a little buff that makes it easier to play the next one. But how you use those in this game matters. So now you're seeing the board there very quickly. If you stack certain chips in order, it adds to their power. So there's a strategy in how you use the chips and how you stack them on the board. It matters when you go out into the real world and actually start playing. So the drone, Pearl, who's been zapped into the drone you can level up between matches. You eventually get equipment slots and special abilities. One thing that the drone does automatically all on its own, so you see on that wall there's that thing that goes up. If you actually run up that wall, it will launch you into the sky, and then you can choose for the drone to come and pick you up while you're in midair, and then you float or hover down. And that's helpful for platforming and for combat in some situations if you're trying to get out of a sticky situation and you're being overrun by enemies. All this stuff is cool and great ideas and a unique way to do a horde mode and all that. The problem, Matt, is that the game is just too damn easy. So none of the stuff matters. All these cool things that they've done, it doesn't matter when all you have to do is just run around the map and just shoot stuff until it explodes. Sometimes they mix it up by you have to take out the thing that actually spawns the enemies. But for the most part, you're just sliding around each of these small stages and you just kill everything. And then once you kill everything, it ends and you get sent to the next one and you get a new chip. And on you go, and you just rinse and repeat. I get it. They don't want to make this too challenging because a lot of kids play Splatoon. I understand it. And there are, when you finish it, there are things that you can unlock, literally you unlock with keys, that you can make it more challenging artificially, on your own. But organically, it's just way too easy. I finished this, went through all 30 floors on my third try. So that shows you that it's not that difficult. And then again, the incentive to go play it again is making it more difficult on yourself by unlocking the ability to do that. So it took me less than 2 hours to complete. It cost $25. It is a part of the Splatoon 3 season pass or whatever that launched last year. This was kind of the big thing that everybody's waiting for the $25. It's not worth $25. I would not spend $25 for this at all. 2 hours for me, $25, that just doesn't work out for me. The graphics, as I mentioned, are intentionally washed out and monochromatic, but it's also part of the plot. So as you play through these 30 stages, color starts kind of returning to the game, which I thought was a pretty subtle but really cool feature to let you know that you're making headway through it. But also, I think it does zap the game of a little bit of its personality. It takes a good, 15 floors before it starts to look like Splatoon. And one of the things about Splatoon is that it's just a striking-looking game. Even, the ink that they give you, it's you see it. It's this pink speckly stuff. It just doesn't stick out. I don't know. I felt like it kind of neutered the IP a little bit with the way they did the color palette.
It feels very 80s business casual.
That's a good way to put it. But I will say this, I do love Splatoon. You guys know that. I talk about it all the time. I go back and I play multiplayer matches every once in a while just for fun. I really do enjoy this IP. And so therefore, I did really enjoy playing through this DLC. If only to go back and play some more Splatoon 3 in a different context from how I've been playing it for the last several months, mostly just multiplayer. It would be cool maybe if there was a cooperative angle to this where you could play along with a friend. I think that might help it a little bit, but then they'd have to have their drone, and that might make things a little bit more complicated. But I guess my big concern is that this is going to be the campaign going forward in Splatoon, and I don't know which I like better, honestly. This is shorter than the other campaign that they had, but the other campaign really is just an overblown tutorial with a couple bosses thrown in. So, Matt, I still don't feel like they've found single-player Splatoon yet, I guess is what I'm getting at. They just still haven't quite got there. Maybe, ultimately, the answer is a hybrid of the two campaigns that they came up with for Splatoon 3, but for me, this was sent to me by Nintendo. I got it for free. I didn't have to pay for it. If somebody had told me, you played this, now you owe me $25, I'd be a little pissed off, just being honest about it. So it's an experiment, a kind of cool experiment for one of Nintendo's best-selling IPs, by the way. Splatoon is huge, believe it or not, which is why they probably rationalized doing this DLC for it. But again, as somebody who is a big fan of Splatoon, I just found it to be just a little bit too expensive for the amount of entertainment that I got from it. Now, kids probably would struggle with this a lot more, and they probably get a lot more playtime out of it. So if you're considering buying this for your kids, I think it's a smarter purchase in that context. Buying it for yourself, probably not the best idea. Did you ever get into Splatoon, Matt?
Nope.
No?
Don't care about Splatoon.
Yeah.
I like the
it's
aesthetic.
polarizing.
I like the aesthetic of it, but it just doesn't. It's not of interest to me.
Yeah. This probably will be the last DLC for Splatoon 3. It's been on the market for a good bit. And again, this was kind of the content that everyone was waiting for that $25 that they plunked down. Vincent is asking, how does it compare to the roguelike additions to The Last of Us Part 2 and God of War Ragnarok? Great questions. But entirely different. They're just completely different games. It's really hard to kind of compare them. I guess if I had placed them in order, it would go... Probably go God of War Ragnarok, Splatoon 3, and then The Last of Us. That's how I would place them. But again, entirely different experiences. All three are entirely different. It's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. The other thing, too, is that those were free, and this cost money. So.
Well, Last of Us wasn't free.
Yeah.
It was $10.
Yeah.
It was $5. $5 for the upgrade, $5
for the mode. Yeah. But anyway.
God of War, yeah, free.
Yeah. I did enjoy my time with it, but it's not worth $25. I guess that's where I'll leave it. So there you go.
God of War had a good story, too.
What'd you say?
God of War had a good story.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, there's actually a story in the mode.
It's weird that the free one was really the most complete offering.
In this story, like, there is no really story. It's like, there's a cinematic at the beginning, and then there's the little cinematics in the elevator where you're going from one floor to the next. The other thing I should point out, too, is eventually, you can see in the B-roll here, you can choose the mission. So you'll get to a floor, and it'll say, you can choose from 3 of these. And they're all different difficulty settings. And if you're going to play this, play the hardest difficulty setting, you will have no problem. And if you do, you get more rewards, as you might expect. So, there you go. That's Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC. And with that, it's time for the last segment of GameFace episode 379. And you know what that means. That's right, it's time for Name That Game Tune, which is a little game we play here on GameFace where I play 5 samples from a video game and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Kyle does. A few things before we get going. You can only win once per year. If you've already won this year, do not play. And at this point, we do have a bunch of winners. Also, if you do not play PC games, do not play because the winner of this gets a downloadable code from Steam for a free game. And again, those are supplied by soundwizardry.com, which is a sponsor of this segment. If you have any audio needs, if you need to fix audio, you need to create audio, you need to punch up audio, they do it all. If you're working on a game, you need audio for your game. They worked on 2 Game of the Year contenders from last year. They are amazing. Go to soundwizardry.com. A big thanks to them for sponsoring, I think, an awesome segment. I have a lot of fun just doing this. I hope you guys have a lot of fun playing it. And then one other thing before we get going. The chat goes on to slow mode once we start playing, which means that you can only type in one chat thing every 60 seconds. So don't waste a bunch of guesses because the second sample could play. You could be like, oh, I know what that is, but you already wasted your once every 60 seconds and you can't answer it. So be very frugal with when you make your guesses when you play the game, and you'll have a much higher chance of winning. And with that, yep, Vincent's got us into slow mode and we're ready to go. All right, Matt, let me turn up the volume for you, my friend, so you can hear the samples. Now, I did tweak the audio. They're louder this time, because once I listened to the archive of the show last week, it was too low. So I did do a bunch of work on these. I hope the audio level is better. If you've been cranking up your speakers for these over the last couple weeks, you might want to turn it down just a little bit. Emperor Dread already guesses Body Harvest. You're wrong, but someday you will be right, but not today. So anyway, here we go. We're ready for the Name That Game tune. Matt, are you ready?
Yeah.
Hope y'all are ready. Here comes the first sample. Not Body Harvest.
Death Stranding.
Not Death Stranding. No, someone else guessed it. Mission S guessed it too. Not Death Stranding. And you guys venture a guess Final Fantasy X. No. That's a good guess though.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy VIII. Nope. Not Final Fantasy VIII.
Chrono Cross.
Not Chrono Cross. Nope. Shadow of the Colossus. No. Uncharted 4. No. Link's Awakening. No. Looks like we might make it to the second sample. Uncharted 4. No. 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. Nope. Chillax, brosif. Nope. Wind Waker. No. Toon Medic. Big surprise that you chose Wind Waker. Anyone else before we move on? All right, I think that's it. All right, here comes the second sample. And you can definitely get it from this, I think. Here it comes. So there you go. That's the second sample. Any more guesses after the second one? What about you, Matt? BioShock, no. Oh, we have a winner. Zed Saber got it. It is Elden Ring. Firewatch, nope.
I forgot about there's a lot of waves.
Yeah. Do you want to hear all the samples before you take the headphones off?
Sure.
Okay, here's the third one. Here's the fourth one. This one's definitely.
Yeah, I would have known From at that point. I don't know if I would have guessed Elden Ring.
And then here's the last one.
Those are all unmistakable Souls-like sound effects.
Zed Saber said it though. From Software has specific combat noises, and as I was cutting these clips, I very quickly realized that any landing blow I could not put in the first three clips. Yep,
that thing.
That's even I knew right away. Oh, I cannot. I put it in the last one because I have people need to get it. I want people to win. So anyway, great job, Zed Saber. Nobody else I don't think was going to get it but you. So awesome job. There's another round of applause for you. And thanks everybody else for playing. I wish we could. My goal is to at least get to the third one every time. Haven't quite done it yet, because you guys are just too damn good. That's the truth. You guys are just really good at it. But Zed Saber, you're right, man. There is a sound From Software when you land a strike. It's that. It's hard to explain it, but when you hear it, you know where it comes from. And so I like doing this because it's a puzzle for me trying to figure out what audio cues are going to clue you guys into the games. It's fun to try to figure out what stuff I should include in each clip and what I shouldn't. So again, my goal is to try to make it to the third clip every time. And I could do that easily by just using the sound of a door shutting or whatever. But that's not fun. I want to make it possible still to get it with the first one. But anyway, I'm enjoying doing this. I hope you guys are enjoying playing it. I think as I get better at it, we'll go deeper and deeper, and people will end up getting it on the third or the fourth or the fifth sample or whatever. But I have fun no matter what. And that's it for GameFace episode 379. Once again, we've run out of time. We can't do Q&A. I apologize. We haven't done it for a while. And again, that's my fault as the host. I'm not managing the show well enough to leave some time for Q&A at the end. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully, Name That Game Tune is a decent facsimile. You guys are enjoying playing that and don't feel so bad about the Q&A. But again, there is always Ask Shane anything if you do want to ask me any other questions outside of the GameFace ecosystem. If you're watching this show on YouTube and you want to help us out, that would be awesome. Head to patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. If you're listening to the show on any of the podcast services, same deal, go there. If you don't have any money, you can help us by reviewing the show on the podcast services. You can like the show on YouTube. You can subscribe, of course. You can subscribe to SIFTD on YouTube. Now, it's not as good a deal as you go to our Patreon, but it's still a pretty good deal compared to other gaming outlets. So there's a bunch of ways that you can help us. There's Twitch Prime, as a lot of people do during the live show. If you're watching on YouTube, go down to the description below to learn how to do that. There's just a ton of different ways you can help us, whether you have money or not, and we appreciate all of it. Everything makes a difference. So thanks, guys. I'm kind of sitting here right now, Matt. I'm like, what are we going to talk about next week? This is another kind of dry week of releases. We always manage to put together a good show. I think you guys can rely on us. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SIFTD So have yourselves an awesome week, guys, full of great games. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.